See while the camera's on.
Your Marine Corps buddies.
It's okay to kiss him, just keep my tongue in my mouth.
Okay.
He's not recording this, is he?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
I don't see any red lights on, I guess we're good.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Maximize that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, make it look presentable here.
Okay. Good morning. Today is 24 May, the year 2018. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in Palm Springs, California. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in our country's military conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum along with fellow volunteer, Colonel Harry Ziegler. And today we have the honor and the privilege of hearing the story of Sergeant Ed Cullinan. Sergeant Cullinan was a wireman with the 3rd Marines in South Vietnam, laying wires and Claymore mines from Happy Valley north to the DMZ. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Ed, really good to have you here.
Thank you, Doctor.
You get another one on.
And I meant to, I neglected to say fellow volunteer Ed Cullinan.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So here you can take your appointed thing. He, I don't think you need to be that close to him. He's got a pretty strong
Yeah, I was
voice, so
gonna say,
we're in good,
yeah, he's
good
got a
shape.
good-
You're
Sometimes.
You're
my
saying I
voice-
got a big mouth, huh? I'm gonna remember all this.
Well, it matches the rest of your body.
Touche.
It's all in proportion, you know.
Marines ragging on each other. Yeah, that works.
See how we are?
You know that damn record light, sometimes it's in the red of the
I
flag.
know it's a little hard to say. As long as you see something, you know it's okay. It's going. So, okay.
We're all Republicans here, aren't we?
Oh yes, that's for sure. I tell you what, Sergeant, would you stand up for a
Yes,
moment,
sir.
please? I'm going to move you over here just a little bit. Okay, no, there you go.
No.
Yes, you got you centered there. Yeah, we're good. Oh yes. No, there are no Trumpers here.
Do I look at
Doesn't matter.
or look into the camera?
Doesn't matter.
No.
No, just keep your eyes open.
I'm on 50% alert.
Well, now we had one interviewer fall asleep while I was there.
You're that exciting, huh?
Well, worse, one of our early, I've been doing this for, how long, 20, let's see, how long, I started in 2000, year 2000, I guess we did. So we've been in 18 years. And so one of our early interviewers, yeah, you can have that, that's it. He was a World War II veteran, and because he was pretty old, in his mid-80s by this time, kind of like old what's his name here. And so I had made the mistake. I'd give him 2, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. In the afternoon, the guy who he was doing the interview came to me and said, he said, I'm talking, I'm looking over, and the interviewer said, John, are you awake? So it was my fault. I should have known better and given him 2. But anyway, so that's the only one where we've had our guy fall asleep, so that's not too bad.
It don't take long, about 5 hours.
Oh, jeez, well,
Okay.
glad I packed a lunch.
Yeah, you guys can do that. Yeah, there's there's another camera over there, and there's a fresh battery over here, Harry, if you need it.
What was that, Dave? Could you say?
There's a fresh battery,
Oh, okay.
and then that camera. No, I guess
That's a stand.
We got a camera over? No, don't have a camera over there. So if you need it, you got a battery. You can replace that.
Okay.
Okay.
So far, they've all been running.
Yeah, it's been going on.
Sergeant, you leaving us?
I am. Thank you.
Has this been recording all?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's going. So you're good to go.
Every once in a while, not often, you'll be interviewing and you'll look over and the screen will be black.
Uh-huh.
And that was when the battery goes off.
I see.
And you'll say, oh man, where did it turn black? You know, how far back?
Can we get a redo on this?
Yeah, I've had every length of interview you can imagine.
I can imagine.
One of them was 10 hours,
Oh, jeez.
5 2-hour sessions. The guy had a photographic memory. He remembered every CO, he was a tanker.
Wow.
He was in every tank battle the Marine Corps had, all of his COs, everything. And he was with the artillery unit in the 7th Marines, and in the whole during the war, and I wrote a book, Tanks on the Beach, and a Navy Cross, and I mean,
Wow.
just impressive.
You
I
just
mean,
had a barrel load of information.
yeah, just wonderful. And then he didn't live a long life, but that was the longest one I had, was 5 2-hour sessions.
His memory bank ran out. Or
Well,
exploded.
actually, I'd be interviewing him and he'd say, you know, that reminds me of a story.
I can imagine.
Well, in the 5th interview, I said, oh man, I hope there's no more stories. Good guy, though, really good guy. Well, let's start out, Ed, if you give me your full name and spell it.
Edward Michael Cullinan, Cullinan.
And it's E-D-W-A-R-D, Edward.
EDWARD, M as in Michael, MICHAEL,
Middle initial,
Michael.
Michael.
Edward M. Cullinan.
Okay. And where were you born?
New Rochelle, New York,
Could you spell that for us?
NEWROCHELLE,
And what year was that?
May 16th, 1945.
And what was your father's full name?
Michael Joseph Cullinan.
And you know where he was born?
He was born in, well, I think he was born in Ireland, County Cork, I think. I'm not that familiar with the exact birthplace of my dad.
Do you know how he traveled from there and got to where he became your dad?
Yeah, by ship. And I think it was 1917 or 1918. Very young man. Came to, I think, Massachusetts.
Do you know why he left Ireland?
Yeah, they can't do anything to him now. The Black and Tans, the English, and I have nothing bad to say about the English, but the Black and Tans at that point in time, it was called the War of the Evils, of the War of the. It was a special war. My dad and my grandmother lived together, and at that particular point in time, the English was kind of taking over property. And my dad didn't like that, so him and a few friends hid someplace, and they had a gun, and there was a group of what they call Black and Tan, War of the Evils. He had a gun, and they were hiding, and my dad assassinated one of either the captain or some ranking official that was leading that group to take over his mom's house or property.
The Black and Hands is
Black and Tans.
tan black, and it's British. They're Brits.
Yes. So after no, this is word of mouth, and this happened many, many years ago. But word of mouth said that my dad went into his mom's house. Mom rolled him up in a blanket or a downed pillow, huge bedspread or whatever it was, until they left. And then my dad had to leave Ireland and come to the United States.
He jumped the
There was
boat,
there was a warrant for his arrest.
and it would have been murder, and he would have been a dead duck.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
you say with your grandmother, his mother owned the home,
Yes,
and so that was his father's home.
his mom and dad's home.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't know what happened to my grandfather on his side. I don't know anything about that.
But eventually, then she lost the home, I'm assuming, to the Brits.
And I don't know that either.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
So he came back through Massachusetts? and-
From Massachusetts, my dad was a great dancer. So he would follow the circuit of certain bands. And one day they came to New Rochelle, New York, which is probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours south of Massachusetts where he was staying. And he was quite the dancer, and the girls would ask him to dance.
Oh,
And that's how we met my mother.
okay, so,
He just danced her feet off.
and you know where that was, what town?
It was in New Rochelle.
Okay, where you were born then?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and so what's your mother's maiden name?
Hoare, Hoare.
And what was her background?
You know, being from Ireland, the negativity that came with the Irish, the only job that basically she could find was a house cleaner. What are they, the technical name? Domestic. She did domestic work. And for $5 a day, and how she could feed 6 kids on $5 a day was absolutely amazing. We realized, a loaf of bread was 10, 15, 20 cents, and, we realized all of that. But still, $5 a day, that's what she worked for.
So, do you know what year they were married then?
Oh, boy.
Roughly, within 100 years.
I would venture to say, I was 17 at the time. My dad was 45. That was 1945, and I was the last, so maybe 1935, somewhere around there, they started having children. And maybe 1935, 34 or so, maybe they got married then.
And where were you in the line of children?
The last one.
Can you go through the...
My brother, Frank, was the first. I have that written someplace else, and I just didn't
That's okay.
bring it. My brother, Francis, they called him, was, I guess he was born in 32, I believe, not a, brains kicking. And then my brother, Bob, I guess was maybe 2 to 3 years after that. And then my sister, Eileen, probably 35, 36, maybe 37. And my other sister, Phyllis, shortly after that. And my sister, Patty, which is, everyone else is deceased in the family. My sister Patty lives in Rockland, California. And she's doing well, as can it be expected at her age. And she's 3 years older than me. And so she was born in 1942. I was born in 1945.
So you were the sixth?
I think I was the seventh. We had, I think, a brother, and I'm not too sure in that died at birth.
Okay.
And that might have been the first or the second, first or third child.
Well, being Irish, it was pretty obvious, and you were probably all Catholic.
Oh, absolutely.
And so,
I was an altar boy. I was a Boy Scout. I was an Explorer Scout, and very proud to have been a Marine.
they all kind of follow along.
Yeah, we do.
Now, you are all growing up in the same house. Can you remember when you start remembering your home and where you live?
Yeah. You mentioned we lived in a house. Actually, we lived in a one-room apartment
With
with
six,
eight
people
Eight people
in a one-room
in one room. I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor next to an ice box.
a real icebox.
An ice box, and I still to this day go, oh honey, it's in the ice box, or Jim, get me something out of the ice box, ice box, So, and I can remember one night, I'm sleeping and just happened to roll over, and my hand went into the water, the cold water, because the ice dripped down and cooled everything, and then
Yeah.
dripped, and it just shocked me.
Now, one room, usually mom and dad get the one room.
No, it was one room. There was one. My mom and dad slept together. Two of my sisters slept together. One was off in a foster home.
Or
I think at my early age, I was at a foster home.
is there reasons for that?
Well, mother couldn't afford us. Mom and dad couldn't afford us.
So when you say foster home, was that through the church?
Probably the local government.
So,
That happened a lot. It was against the law to have, or the Catholic rules stated, if you can't wear contraceptives, or you bore children, and
that's right. It lasted, it's still in some people's minds.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, instead of being there with 6 kids in there, were only 4 kids at the house.
Well, I remember we all got together. It was time that there might have been some rules or regulations that you could only be fostered a certain time, and the government would not pay the people that were fostering the children. Now, I'm not a little foggy in that area, but I think that's how it was stated. You foster a child for a certain amount of time, and then they quit paying the foster parent. And
So at what age then did you and your sister go to foster parents?
boy, you got me.
I mean, did you grow up thinking they were your mother and dad?
I had no idea. When you're 2 or 3 years old, you don't know who.
Yeah, you don't know
they-
anything.
No, you don't know anything. You're just there. All of a sudden, your brain, you're not really comprehending while you're there. Just one day you wake up, oh, I was fostered. And I can remember sitting on a gentleman's lap, and I, for the first time, I guess, I had a visual of him, and he looked like the man. He had a handlebar mustache. And if you ever seen the Lipton Tea actor or portrait of the gentleman that's on the Lipton Tea, I don't know if he's on the tag or if it's still there, but that's the memory that sticks in my mind. I just thought he was the Lipton Tea man.
But as a baby, who nursed you?
I have no idea. As far as
I mean,
being fed,
at what point would your mother have had to give you and your sister up?
probably at birth.
Because that meant either, in those days, formula and all that stuff was not too
No.
common. You either were on the tit
Yeah,
or
exactly.
you starved to death.
I have no idea.
Well, obviously you didn't starve.
I might have starved in the Marine Corps, but not now. I made up for it.
Now, you and your sister were in the same home or different homes?
I think we were all in different homes, and at the time, maybe everything it all depended on how long the government wanted to pay these foster parents. Because I remember one time, we're still in the one bed or the one room apartment, a hotel room, that my sister Patty, she was leaving, she turned around and kissed my mother and said, "I love you, Mommy." And I asked, how come Patty calls you Mommy? And I was probably about 6 or 7. And tears come out of my mother's eyes.
Hmm. Now, so 4 children are at home though, and 2 are in foster, or is there another one besides you and?
Boy, you're pressing the brain here. I'm going to assume, I'm getting a visual of the one room, and I don't know when, for some reason I can't correlate when my sister said, "I love you, Mommy,"
Yeah.
or how many people lived at that time. Maybe there was only 5, and Patty was living at a foster home down the street. And I can't really put that together.
That was interesting is that the foster parents could get money, but your parents couldn't. They couldn't get help with the children, but foster parents could. And
Yeah, I don't know how that worked, but it's, government, sometimes, even today, the government does stuff that nobody knows why they do it.
now, then, can you remember if your foster parents were also Catholic?
No, I couldn't remember that at all.
Uh-huh.
I remember one name of, I don't know if it was a foster parent or one of the children of the foster parent. Her name was Bridie. So she had to been Irish to have a name like Bridie.
Yeah.
And what her relationship was, I don't know. As a matter of fact, that just came up.
When, or do you ever end up back home with your mother and dad?
Oh, absolutely.
What age does that happen?
I think it was 6 or 7.
And are they still in the 1-bedroom home, or are they moved?
I believe we were, because I can remember.
You talked about the icebox.
Yeah, I can remember. Boy, that's getting foggy. No, I think we moved. I think we moved to. What was it, Bigelow Street? Boy, that. I think it was a 2-bedroom. No, a 1-bedroom place we lived in after. Oh boy.
It's still Rochelle, though.
It's still in New Rochelle. My sister would tell me a story about not being able to make the rent. And we were put out on the street. My mother crying. She had me on her lap.
At 6?
I'm thinking maybe 5 or 6. So
And
you're bringing up memories now, and I can't.
No,
place
that's okay. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it was a very shameful moment in our time where we couldn't make the rent and we were put out on the street.
Where's your dad in all this?
I think Dad was trying to make the rent by being the janitor, shoveling coal into the fireplaces to keep the building warm. And there were times that, my dad didn't have. After he came to the United States, he didn't have, I guess, his expectations weren't as he thought they should be, so for him to get a job someplace was terrible. I mean, that's you talk about discrimination today. The Irish were very discriminated against. There were 300,000 Irish people deported back to Ireland at the time.
300,000.
300,000. Nobody knows about that, but you do a little history on it.
And this is around.
This is around the time, maybe before that. This is probably around the potato famine. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah.
The potato famine, people were dying. They just had to get out and go someplace else to eat. And I mean, some people would die of starvation on the ships that, however they got on these ships, I don't know. But there were so many coming over, they had to stop it and send them back, deport them back, because wherever they were coming from, they couldn't afford to keep them, and they just sent them back.
Boy.
Yeah.
Do you remember that instant being out in the street, or is that?
No, that was something my sister told me probably about maybe 10 years ago. That's
So-
something, it's a family secret nobody really wanted to
Sure.
address.
Well, it's, not, you weren't the only ones in that.
Oh, absolutely not, yeah.
And I'm trying to get a feeling for what year that might have been. And
Probably 1950,
that late.
48, 49, somewhere around there.
And were you still as a foster child, in Irish neighborhood?
Oh, boy, I couldn't tell you.
I mean, when you went out to play with other kids,
Don't even remember going out to play.
don't do, no.
I remember going to Blessed Sacrament, like kindergarten, first, second, third grade or something like that. And that had to be, what, excuse me, about 50, 51, 52, somewhere around there.
Did, this is 4 years after the war, and our economy kind of boomed
Yeah.
in those years,
Yeah.
we were going back from making tanks to cars, and, and just in general, they were pretty good employment times. then.
Not for the Irish.
And it was still that stigma, because the Italians all said the same thing when they came.
Oh, sure. Everybody did.
Yeah.
If you weren't born there, you were an outsider. But those people that were born there, their parents were outsiders. So they seem to forget, just like today.
So, when do you start remembering being with your mother and your dad and the rest of your family?
I would say probably maybe 7 or 8, maybe, yeah, put me back there, 7 or 8. I remember going to St. Gabriel's grammar school and living on a block, being on a block with all Italians and all, to me, beautiful girls, and I was the only guy.
So you were an Italian neighbor,
I was most of them were Italians, yeah.
and your mother and dad are still together.
They're still together.
Their health is okay. How many of the kids then are back in the house? Did your other sister get back?
Yeah, we were all back at one time for a couple of years. And then my brother got married, my sister got married, my other sister got married.
Can you remember what those years were, where the whole family was together?
Yeah, that was probably maybe 57, 56, 57.
So do you remember the Korean War in those days?
No, I had no idea what a Marine was. The only thing I knew was Army. And it could have been the Navy, it could have been the Air Force, but all I knew was Army.
And was your dad able to get a better job in these days?
Yeah, he got a job with the city, city of New Rochelle. I think it was what they call the waste department. He had a position there where sewage and water and was going through filtration stuff, and he was kind of like the controller, turn this valve this way and this valve that way to get water filtered or whatever they did.
And
I paid the rent.
that house that you're living in, do you remember it?
The house was 100 years old when we moved in. Today it's a parking lot.
And what was that house like? Do you
I'd say
remember?
we had 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. 1, 2, 3 bedrooms upstairs. It was an attic, then they converted it into.
Was it heated?
Yeah, when we can get the coal, or we could afford the coal or the oil, I can't remember. I think it used to be coal, then it went to oil. And there was times we couldn't afford it.
Was it
So-
a basement with a furnace? Or
They had a basement, yeah, it was, but I couldn't remember it was oil fired or coal fired. I think it used to be coal, and then they converted it to oil. I don't know, I can't remember that one. But I can remember in the wintertime, we couldn't afford the oil or gas or whatever. Well, we had the gas because my mom, before breakfast, she'd get up really early, turn the oven on, and, you know, heat the kitchen up. Had to close all the doors just to keep the kitchen heated so we could, you know, eat. There were times we didn't have any hot water, so we had to take cold baths, or there weren't even showers, actually. It was just, my mother would heat up water and throw it in the bathtub, and that's how we bathed.
Did the house have a yard attached to it where you could have?
The yard was a parking lot. The backyard was a parking lot. There was a little front yard with some bushes, but we never played in the yard. We played out in the street.
Was it paved, the street?
Yeah.
And you had street lights and,
Yeah, I think we had, I can't remember, but I think we had street lights.
was your mother, did she have a washing machine?
Not for the longest time. I can remember her putting all our clothes in a, you know, in a basket that she can wheel. She'd walk a couple of blocks to the laundromat, and there was times that she couldn't do that because she had no money to put into the laundromat. So she'd wash what we needed by hand and hang it out on the clothesline. And my brother Bobby, God bless him, one of his first jobs, saved all his money to buy his mother a washing machine.
And where did you put, if there was a parking lot behind the house, how did you dry the laundry?
Well, there were telephone poles or light poles. So from the house, from the master bedroom looked out over the parking lot. And at that time, they had clotheslines where you can, you know,
Yeah,
on a wheel, and you could put it out that way. So my dad, at his age, he couldn't climb up the telephone pole, so he had me climb up the telephone pole and find a hole or something that maybe the pole pegs
yeah.
were in, where the guys could climb up on there. And he would tell me to put this hook in there and tighten it down as tight as I could, but make sure the hook was up. And then he'd toss me up, and I remember this vividly. He tossed me up, but he didn't want to hurt me because he figured he'd be throwing it too hard. So it took maybe 5 or 6 attempts. Like, Dad, throw it up. So and we got the clothesline, and it was long. My God, it was. You had another 10 feet to that corner there, and it served very well. So my mom would wash the clothes,
So
let
did you
it
have,
spin
did you have
dry.
clothes props to put in?
Oh yeah, clothespins. Oh yeah.
Clothes props. And,
Yeah, well, we had that.
and now,
Just wheel it out. In the wintertime, there was cardboard, it felt like, you know, just frozen.
now, was there a basement where the wash machine would have been?
No, we had it in a,
Little porch or something?
no, it wasn't a porch. It was a tiny little room that I guess the previous renters had. And they used that for, you know, their laundry facilities. They had a little sink on, if you walk in, little sink on this side, and the washing machine was on this side. I don't think that's how it went.
Was your mother able to do any canning?
Oh no, we were never that sophisticated.
Yeah. And during that time, did you ever have a bicycle?
Yes, my sister Eileen, her boyfriend Charlie, great guy, just absolutely super guy. He talked, you know, my birthday was coming up, and he talked to my sister Eileen. He says, "Ed doesn't have a bicycle?" and we couldn't afford a bicycle. Blah, blah, blah. You know, bicycles were $5-10, and we couldn't.
Yeah.
So Charlie got me a used bicycle, and I hate to say this, we tore the fenders off. We made a hot rod out of the bicycle. We wanted to be cool, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But Charlie saw the bike and he kind of laughed. He said, "I'd probably done the same thing."
They were great bikes until it rained.
Yeah,
And you ended up with that little arrow up the front and back.
My buddy Kenny, we would. He was bigger than me and stronger than me, so I'd sit on the bar across, and we'd go pedal to our girlfriend's house. And that was a hell of a pedal, I'll tell you.
Now, did you have any jobs to make money, like a newspaper route or
I had a paper route. 6409 was the paper route number, and that lasted probably a year. And I really didn't like it because at those times, you know, we had these high-rise apartments and there was no elevators. And you'd be humping 10 stories up, and, you know, especially when you had to collect for money, nobody would answer the door when you came knocking. "Oh, see me next week." Oh, damn. But you still had to pay for the newspapers. So if you got tips, your tips had to pay for the rest of the newspapers that, you know, you couldn't collect on. So I thought, wait a second, I'm working for nothing. So, and I tried my damnedest to get the people collected, you know, to collect, but they were in the same boat we are. They didn't have a pot to, you know what, in or a window to throw it out of. But that's how we lived. I got a job. My sister, if she'd have stuck with it, she'd probably have been a professional golfer. This is Patty, the one that's surviving. She had an uncle, kind of a make-believe uncle. Charlie was a cop on the New Rochelle police force, another outstanding guy, just great memories of this guy.
Irish?
No, he was Italian.
Okay.
He was Italian. And he always wanted a daughter, so he kind of adopted Patty. And he was a great golfer too. Wasn't a pro, but could play the game quite well. And he was teaching Patty how to play golf. And then he got a job, a second job. He was still a police officer. He was the first one to drive a two-wheel Harley-Davidson police motor car in New Rochelle. He, after hours, got a job at a driving range, Cherry Lawn Driving Range. And he would instruct people, you know, the golf game.
Sure.
And he was teaching Patty how to play golf, and Patty had a great swing, could knock the ball out there. So Tom Vadil was the owner of Cherry Lawn Driving Range, and Tom and Patty got along very well, also Italian. And my sister says, "You know, do you need any help?" And he goes, "You know, I could use a guy that goes around and picks up the buckets and collects the balls at night." And she goes, "My brother, I think, would like that. Why don't you give him a shot or talk to him and see if he would do it?" Well,
And that's you.
that's me. And Tom and I got along fine. Hired me, and he said, "Ed, you know anybody, you know, maybe a friend of yours would kind of help me out too?" And I got my buddy Ken. He was the one the bigger guy that would ride the bike to our girlfriend's houses with me on the front thing. So Kenny got a job up there, and he was quite pleased with what we did, you know. And we thought it was fun, you know. We made what they call flippers. You get a piece of steel. First of all, you get a club without the head, and in the shaft it'd be a hole, and you'd get some pretty stringent wire, and you made a loop out of it, and the loop was big enough to hold the golf ball, and you'd flip it. And so we'd walk around the perimeters flipping the golf balls in. So the Jeep with the pickers on it, the ball pickers on it, and you see them today still, drive. And we'd get in a contest, see who could flip the ball the farthest. Ah, God, we broke. The boss would live at a house, big beautiful house, on the outskirts of the driving range. So I flipped the ball, but it got caught, and it released late, and it broke one of the windows at the boss's house. He goes, "What the hell happened here? This guy, I think he's aiming at us at time." Well, hell, duck. That was funny.
Now,
We didn't have the heart to tell him that I broke the window. Didn't want to lose our job.
can you remember what you got paid for that?
Oh, Jesus, probably $1. Well, this is about 1960.
Would you see your sister over there hitting balls?
Oh yeah, him and Charlie, or her and Charlie.
Did they ever let you go on the driving range?
Oh yeah, well I got to swing that. I took one lesson. Well, I'll get up to that. Your last question was, I think we were getting paid $1.35, $1.25 or $1.35 an hour, and we worked maybe 4 hours. We'd get the night thing, work 4 or 5 hours a night, and that was our pay. We got paid like, I think it was every other week. I can't remember. And anyway, it came to like $35 every payday, you know.
Oh, was that money distributed to the mother?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. I made sure that. Trying to think, her birthday. I bought her a birthday cake, but I'd give her probably half. This way, I wouldn't have to borrow money for lunch at school or things like that. You know, things that a shirt. If I wanted to buy a shirt, I wouldn't have to beg my mother to give me the money.
Did she sew? Did she make clothes for the kids?
No. All she did was domestic work. That's all she could do.
So she was a working mother.
A working mother.
Yeah. So how was the meals provided? Can you remember? Would she come home and then make dinner, or?
If I keep coming say about the money we had, I can remember dinner consisting of Italian bread and a bouillon cube. That's how desperate we were. You know, $5 doesn't go very far sometimes, and this is one of the times it didn't.
I can remember asking my mom, "Are we going to have potato soup again?"
Yeah. So we grew up in a certain era, and you know that's what our
A
background.
treat was if she could put a little butter in it. And there'd be this little.
I don't even think we had butter. It's just one of those.
Now, did you have a radio in the house?
You know, again, God bless my brother. When was it Magnavox?
What's one of them?
Yeah.
Emerson also.
No, this is a Magnavox. I think
RCA.
it was. Little TV. I think it cost. I don't know. I think it might have cost $30 or $35 at the time. I can't remember. But that was a hell.
6-inch screens.
No, it might have been 10. Now we didn't. My brother didn't splurge. I mean, boom, we got a big one. And we'd set that up in the living room, and you know the people downstairs. What was his name? Anyway, they didn't have a TV, so people were kind of jealous. Like, wow, the Cullinan's got a television. Oh wow, 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 wow. So the guy, we had a little code that he would knock, and there was a song, knock 3 times on their ceiling if you want. McKinney, well, anyway. So I said, well, you knock, if you want to come up and watch TV, knock 3 times on the water pipe. And then I'll ask, or knock twice on the water pipe, and I'll ask my mom or dad or brother, can Kenny come upstairs and watch TV? And if they said yes, I'd return with 3 knocks. And up he ran up the stairs. So that was kind of our code thing.
This is still the house with the parking lot behind it.
Yes, 14 Lawn Avenue, New Rochelle, New York.
Were there a lot of kids in the neighborhood?
Oh yes, yeah, they were. Like I said, they were all girls. Alana, Rosemary, Sue.
Can you remember some of the games you might have played?
Oh Oh, hopscotch, hide and go seek.
Play kick the can?
I don't know if we played kick the can. Played dodgeball.
What'd you use for a ball?
A ball.
Regular
Basketball. Yeah. Or whatever.
Was there a basketball court anywhere?
Oh, yeah. No. Maybe at school, which is
Yeah.
probably 3-4 miles away.
Did you go on a bus to get to school?
Walked.
You walked to school?
Walked to school.
No matter what the weather was?
No matter what the weather was.
Was there ever a car in the family?
My older brother Francis bought a car. He bought a 1952 Ford, black and white, I think, or black and gray. That was the first car in the family.
And can you remember?
Mother and father never drove.
We're talking in the 1950s now?
Yeah, I think it was new. So he bought a 1952, 1953.
And he must have had a reasonable good job then.
I can't remember what he had. I'm sure he was, yeah, I mean, you got to buy a car, you had to have a job. I can't remember what his job was, but when he got married, his father-in-law got him, his father-in-law was kind of a, I don't want to say a big cheese in the air conditioning duct, aluminum duct.
Sheet metal.
Sheet metal, there you go. But he got a job from his father-in-law, you know, I guess making sheet metal. I don't know what the job entailed, but he was making pretty good money. But he already had the car by then, and got married to Patricia.
How many kids did they have?
I was just gonna say, I think they had 7 or 8 kids. Jesus.
And did they live in Rochelle?
They lived for a while in New Rochelle. They got a divorce. Oh God, I guess theirs lasted pretty much 10 years. So 10 years, I think it lasted. And she moved to California up here, and he stayed in New Rochelle. Got remarried.
She did.
Yeah, she did. And my brother got remarried. He married a girl that had 7 kids and made 3 of their own. And everybody in the family just walking around scratching their heads. You know. But you know, by then I was in boot camp when all that happened.
In your house, was there a market or something you could go to buy groceries?
Dinkles. And
Now, is that Jewish?
I believe it was. There was Dinkles, and then it was a little market up the street. And the guy was definitely Jewish. A very nice guy. Dinkles was a very nice guy. Dinkles catered, and you don't see this anymore. He knew where he was. He was in a neighborhood with trusting people. Might not have the money to pay for everything all the time, but he'd put those people on credit. And they paid it off, you know. My mom was one of the people. I won't have any money until Tuesday, and Ms. Dinkle said, that's fine. She'd be in Tuesday morning with the money. And that's how she was allowed to, you know, run up a bill. So.
Can you remember going there to pick up groceries?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Coming home from boot camp, had a couple of $100 in my pocket. Back pay, you know, after you go through boot camp.
Yeah.
Whatever you didn't spend on uniforms and all this other stuff you'd take with you. And the first stop I made was Dinkles asked, he knew me, and I said, my mom have a bill here, and he goes, well, let me see. And he goes, yeah, it's like $17 or something. Gave him the money. And then, and this is even before, you know, I went home. That's the first place I dropped off with. So I didn't tell my mom I paid the bill. I didn't want to make her feel bad,
Yeah.
you know. So I spent, you know, it was like 30 days I had off. So I spent the whole 30 days at home. But the next day, my mom wanted to have a big dinner and you know,
You were home, yeah.
bringing everybody over because my son's
Well,
home. And
you're
blah,
up to
blah, blah.
about 50 people now with all the children.
Oh, Jesus. No, it was mostly my sister, my brother, I don't know. See, that part is a blank because all the divorce and everything happened
Oh, yeah.
when I was in the
Yeah.
Marines. And, but the point that I'm trying to make, she went to Dinkle's
And
and she goes, Mr. Dinkle, my son just came back and he goes, yeah, he paid your bill. And tears come out of my mother's eyes.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
And I go, well, what do you need? You know, so made a list of like turkey or I forget what
yeah,
big to do, you know. So she charged it. So
it's just you're back.
go back the next day.
Now, how close were you to a movie house?
Walking distance, you know, is probably,
Remember the name of it?
oh yeah, there was 3 of them. Lowe's, RKO, Town Center, or Town Theaters. There was 3 of them. 2 on one side of the street and 1 on the other side. It was RKO and Town. And then across the street was Lowe's Theaters.
Was it a downtown area then that you
Never downtown, never show.
And how far was that from where you lived?
About 3 miles.
you
We
still-
used to walk.
Still walking. There was
Yeah.
no.
We'd
no
take
net-
shortcuts across the railroad, run across the railroad tracks, and you know, dodge trains and
Okay.
bums and
Okay.
everything else.
To get to the.
Get to
No.
the theater.
Were there some girlfriends during these days?
Yes, of
Yes.
course.
Someone said
Handsome as I was.
you like to dance.
You know, I told you about my dad danced, and all the girls wanted to dance
Yeah.
with my dad. Well, I inherited it, I guess. And there was every Saturday night or every other Saturday night, Blessed Sacrament would have the Campion Dance Club. And that was for the kids, you know, so every Friday or every Saturday night, it was
Was
called the dancing.
Was this at the church?
It was at Blessed Sacrament. I think it was the gym.
The gym at the school then?
Right. No, I'll take that back because it had a stage, so it was but they didn't have any chairs. They had a stage. Auditorium, I guess you'd call it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But I can't remember chairs. I mean, when
Me.
we were there, they had tables and tables and chairs.
And a place to dance?
Oh yeah, nice big
Would it
dance
be
floor.
with a record player or would it be a band?
Some of them were a record player, and we'll get to the band a little bit later. And me and Kenny, there was, back in the 50s, early 60s, I mean, there was, the Chubby Checkers, the Twist, and then
Dick Clark in the dance
yeah,
on TV? That they,
yeah. But, it was a thing called the mashed potatoes, the thing called the stroll, the
Twist?
well, yeah, the Twist. I mean, there were just so many dances
Yeah.
out there. The locomotion. I mean, but I knew all the dances. I mean, they weren't that hard. It's not like Michael Jackson and the moon thing,
Yeah.
I still can't get that down. But I was able to do all the dances and then win a lot of the dance contests.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so all the girls wanted to dance with me so they can win.
And what would you win?
Little trophies, maybe a little certificate for pizzas.
No bottle of whiskey or
Oh,
anything?
yeah, you're right. We had that in the car. I went back. And, but all the girls, sometimes they have nice little necklaces, cheap necklaces or something like that. And, I'd get a little thing for a pizza. They'd get a little necklace or something. So all the girls wanted to dance with me because they knew that I would win, or 99% of the time I would win a dance contest.
So,
And I would tell my daughter, if a guy can't dance, you tell him he doesn't have a chance. And and boy, she could dance too. I'm telling you, she could really dance. My son has got 2 left feet.
If this was part of the Catholic Church, and was there a school, Catholic school?
No, that was part of it. Blessed Sacrament High School, Blessed Sacrament Junior, or grade, junior, and high school. All three of them in the one building.
And was it one of the gyms there that?
And they had the gym, and that's where the dances were. Also, almost downtown, but maybe a little off street downtown.
Did the girls have their own school? Was it separate?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't remember that.
Because where I lived,
Segregated.
it was segregated. And then they would have dances where the Catholic school from the girls and the boys would go together.
That happened after Blessed Sacrament. I went to St. Gabriel's elementary school, and they had the girls' high school from the 9th grade to the 12th grade was all Catholic girls. So if you went to if you were a boy and went to high school, you transferred out of St. Gabriel's and went to Blessed Sacrament. But still being in St. Gabriel's, I was like in the 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade, probably the 8th grade, and I would hear in the girls' gym, or where the high school girls, they would have their music and they'd be dancing, you know, and I would hear the music, and some of the high school girls knew me and would open up the door, you know, the side door. Oh, and boy, you gotta see this guy dance. So I'd sneak in, and my buddy Jerry and Don, we'd sneak in. They couldn't, I mean, they faked it, but, you know.
So these are 8th graders with high school girls. You're growing up fast.
Ah, jeez. But they, you know, when they go to the, hey, would you save me a dance? You know.
Yeah.
I didn't like dancing slow. You know, it just wasn't my style.
No, you didn't have to pay to get into these things, did you?
You know, it might have been 50 cents.
Something like that.
Yeah, and that helped paid for the prizes or whatever.
Did
whatever
you
they did.
ever have live bands?
I was in a live band. There was 2 of us. My group, it was me. I was a drummer. David Penna was lead guitar. Danny was melody. And Johnny Ritz was bass. So there was 3 guitars and a bass. 2 guitars, a bass, and me as a drummer. And then Charlie, and my drums were blue sparkle. That was the color, blue sparkle. And Charlie, great, another Italian kid, great kid. He was a drummer, and he had red sparkle, and we were all good friends.
Yeah.
So we both got a job, which we didn't get paid anything, maybe cab fare or some damn thing. We both got a job at the Campion dances.
What's a Campion?
Well, that's the club.
Oh.
The Campion Club dances at Blessed Sacrament.
Okay.
So, you know, we'd meet, you know, at lunch period at school, and you know, Charlie says, "Yeah, we got a job at the Blessed Sacrament." I says, "Yeah, I did too. When's your date?" "Same as mine." And Charlie goes, "You want to put on a show?" Now here's a couple of kids at 13, 14 years old planning a show to put on. Everybody thought we were just rivals and we didn't get along and blah, 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 blah. So Charlie asked me, he says, "Could you play the drum part of Rumble?" And I said, "Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs." And he goes, "Good, because I want to dance to Rumble." And here's a guy that could shake a leg too. If I didn't win the dance contest, that goddamn guy wanted to. So he wanted to dance to Rumble. So I'm playing Rumble. He gets off the drums and gets out on and starts dancing to Rumble. And everybody's saying, "Wow, look at that." You know, and keep in mind, we're just a bunch of punk kids. And then I asked him, and there was a lot of singing in the other group. I mean, the other song was Now That I Can Hey, Watch Me Now, Hey, Push. I can't think of the song, but there was singing in that, and there was a nice drum beat to it. Charlie knew, and Charlie could sing too. And he'd play that song. You didn't want me because I couldn't dance. Now I'm back to let you know I can really shake 'em down. And then I'd get off and I'd start dancing. And it literally, I can remember this piano, a big, like Steinway piano. People were literally standing on top of the piano to see what was going on the stage. The piano broke. They wanted us to pay for the piano.
For the other people standing on it.
Yeah, other people were standing on it. It wasn't our fault. You guys wanted a show, we put on a show. But just imagine 13, 14-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, and we rehearsed it maybe once or twice, but we knew the songs, and we knew the breaks, and we both could dance, so it was just...
Well, it sounds like a lot of self-confidence, too. You know, that...
Yeah, it was a remarkable era to grow up in, I think. It's just...
It was because it was post-World War II and post-Korea.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, can you remember the nuns that taught you at school and
Jesus.
some of the funny things that might have gone on there?
God bless Sister Alice. Sister Alicia. Oh, Jesus. Now, she was a heavy-set nun. And she sat with her hands on top of her belly, with her eyes closed. Master Cullinan, say the Confiteor.
Explain what a confiteor is.
It's an act of confession.
Okay.
You know. But she wanted me to say it in Latin, Confiteor Deum Omni Potente, you know, I can go on. And she'd be like, and I make a mistake. Master Cullinan, get up here. Put your knuckles out. And she would whack away on my knuckles
With a ruler?
with a ruler. And this ruler had like a sharp
Oh, yeah.
metal edge to
Yeah.
it. Oh, Jesus. And I got back there and start all over again. She'd be trying. I just remember her twiddling her thumbs. Boy, she'd just wait. And she went up and down the rows, you know.
How many kids would normally be in the class here?
Oh, that was the saddest part. You'd be in a Catholic or parochial school, and they literally shoved kids into these classes. There might have been 40 to 50 kids in a class.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you didn't catch on to, I mean, there was no really, what do they have today? Maybe 10 or 15 kids in a class? I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
they
20.
like to keep them under 30, but who knows anymore?
Yeah. But, you know, to have 50, and I don't know why 72 pops up as a number, I don't know. But if you didn't catch on real quick, you know, you just kind of fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one more story.
Sure.
Sister Joseph, I was in the 7th grade, and I was a troublemaker. The joker, the clown of the class, and blah, 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 blah. Well, she got so tired of me joking around, she calls me up, opens up the door, grabs me by my collar, and just flings me out the door so hard I went across the hallway and bounced off. Now you could see the expression on her face because she hurled me. I don't know where she got the strength, but literally, I don't even think I hit the ground. And I was so, I woke up and I had to go in there and tears were coming out of my eyes. I said, I am so sorry. This will never ever happen
Well,
again.
what did you do to cause this?
I was just banging her, just talking and making jokes and just not paying attention and disrupting the class. That's what I was doing. That never ever happened again. Never. I was a good boy.
Well, did your dad ever spank you?
Oh boy. Nah, not so much. not so much spanking, but he would get mad, you know.
Enough to scare you a little.
Well, you know, there were times that I couldn't eat dinner, I wouldn't eat dinner, I didn't like it, or something, he'd throw water at me or something, eat your dinner. It's just something I really don't want to discuss any further.
Yeah.
Nothing criminal,
Oh yeah.
but just,
Sure.
you know. And I was just a troubled eater, you know, I didn't, that's why I was 135 pounds in the Marines.
Well, in all this socializing, and did you end up with more than one girlfriend?
You mean at a time?
I mean, did you have kind of a steady girlfriend, or
You know,
you really went over to their house and you had dinner once in a while with them, or that type of thing?
yeah, just trying to think. There was one gal, Nancy Sisto, another Italian. She was really neat. She was kind of rebellish herself. And I'm probably 16 by then. And we dated. Never really got that serious, but we knew we liked each other, and you know, she was on the opposite end of town, and we used to call it up the west. You know, when I'm down, I was a southern guy, and the Westies didn't like the southern guys, so to go roller skating on a Friday night or a Saturday night up there, you literally brought your boxing gloves with you. But I never went alone, and I guess the strength in numbers, nobody really screwed around. But I mean, if you went up there with just 2 or 3 guys, you were looking all over the place.
Now, with the roller skating, did you do the dancing with the roller skates?
Yeah, they had music, and you can do a little rhythm to it. I mean, you couldn't do the mashed potatoes on skates or anything like that, but you know, you could, I would call it diddy bopping with the music.
In New York, you had winter time.
You might call it.
What would happen with all the things that you could do during the winter?
You did it in the wintertime. You did it, what you did in the summertime, you did in the wintertime.
Did you have a place to ice skate? Or?
Yes, my high school, Nershell High School, they used to call it Twin Lakes. Twin Lakes High. It had 2 lakes. One you can go ice skating on in the wintertime, and one they had hockey. So on Friday nights and Saturday night, you can go ice skating if the hockey thing wasn't
So the school had a hockey team?
Yeah. I never was on the hockey. I didn't know anything about hockey, didn't like it.
Did you play any of the other sports at school?
I ran track, cross-country track. I was light, I could run all day. And
Yeah. So what was the distance you normally ran?
oh, you're talking miles.
I mean, 5 miles, 2 miles, 10 miles?
Some of them 2, some of them 5.
Mm-hmm. Were they cross countries? Or on a track?
Well, it was cross-country, but at that time it was like on the street.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, that was cross-country.
On the sidewalk?
A sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah.
And anything off school property was,
Yeah.
and it was, I guess in inclement weather or something like that, I can remember running around the track, a quarter-mile track, and
Did you, in high school, get on a bus and go to another school for a competition?
no, I don't remember that. I think everybody came to, because we were the bigger school, so everybody came to us. There might have been a few times, but you know, I just can't remember those days.
How far were you from New York City?
14 miles north of New York City. Took a train 45 minutes.
And was it a big deal to get on the train and go to New York City?
Oh, for us it was, yeah. For me and my buddy Jerry, I shouldn't tell you this. At a Catholic school, you always got chances. they give you 2 books of chances and you sell them and,
And
turn in the money. Well, one day Jerry and I didn't turn in the money. I think it was like $10 or $5 a book or something.
yeah,
We just said, hell with it. Oh, we'll pay him back later, So we got on a train and toured New York. We went to the Empire State Building. We'd get off at Grand Central Station. Went to Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building.
did you go all the way out to the statue?
Oh yeah, got on a little ferry,
Little ferry
right up to
boat.
Liberty Island.
Yeah,
Up
okay.
there, boy, we thought we were cool. We thought we were cool.
Was Ellis Island something you would tour?
No, we didn't tour that. My mom is on the honor roll of Ellis Island.
What's that mean?
I have no idea. But she has a little certificate that Eileen, I think it's Eileen Bridget Hoare. I'm trying to remember what her middle name is. I thought it was Eileen Bridget, but it's something in Gaelic that I can't remember or can't pronounce.
Yeah,
But yeah, she has a little certificate, and I should have brought that in if you wanted to take some pictures of it, but I just didn't think of it.
did your mom and dad speak Gaelic at all at home?
They did, but not much. It was kind of frowned on because you're an Irish immigrant. You wanted to learn English quick, try to learn it without an accent just so you can get a job.
At what point did your mother be able to stop being a servant?
I don't think it ever stopped.
She
She was always...
did they have good health for a long time, or did?
My mom had Alzheimer's. She died at 86.
And how'd your dad do?
He had 3 heart attacks, passed away. He smoked, drank.
And so, what year did he?
67. He was 67 years old. He was born in 1900 and died when he was in 1967.
And then were the burials through your Catholic church?
Yes. Not the, well, there was a, well, yeah, I guess it was at the Catholic, but then they went to the funeral parlor, for...
Yeah. But did they get buried there in a cemetery near the church, or did you?
There was a cemetery. See, the churches at that time in my neighborhood didn't have church or cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
They just had the church grounds.
Yeah.
And you went to the cemetery, as everybody goes to the
Probably a city thing then.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of the cemetery. But I know it's on Kings Highway in Mamaroneck. I can't, it's between Urshel and Mamaroneck, so I don't know the borderline. But it's on Kings Highway. Can't think of the cemetery.
If you guys wanted to go swimming or fishing, what would you do?
Wilson Pool would be the swimming.
Was that within walking distance, something you could?
No, we had to get a bus to that, pay 25 cents or something to go swim.
It was a big pool with.
Oh yeah, hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
And fishing, we went to the high school, Twin Lakes. One side was for, in the summertime, one side was for, well, actually both sides were for fishing. There was a bridge that you could navigate.
Was this the ice skating and the hockey?
Yeah. So in the summertime, they throw it out and you
Yeah.
can go fishing on there.
Yeah, so-
Bluegills mostly.
Yeah. Would you take them home and eat them, or was it just?
No.
Just fun to.
Yeah, exactly. That was my first time. I went with a buddy of mine, didn't know anything about fishing. He had 2 rods, so we had nothing to do one summer day. And he said, "Come on, get on the bus and go fishing." I didn't have a dime to get on the bus, so he lent me a dime to get on the bus, and we went to the high school and caught my first bluegill. I guess it was about like that. I don't think we threw that way. I think we just watched it die. It's like, yeah. I can't remember.
Oh, shoot.
We were cruel.
Now, you're getting in this routine pretty close to where you're thinking about what you're going to do as you get older. And that decision apparently was going into the Marine Corps. What prompted that?
I had no thoughts about getting old. I was just living from day to day. What am I going to do tomorrow? My buddy and I, just got out of high school. It was a cold, miserable, snowy, rainy day in New Rochelle, New York. We had nothing to do, so we're just going to take a walk. And we were walking down Main Street, and we both smoked at the time, so we ducked into this little alcove and lit up a cigarette, and we're smoking and shooting a breeze. And in comes this guy. The guy to us was 15 feet tall, 5 feet wide, dressed in the Marine Corps blues. You thought this guy was the centerfold for the Marines. I mean, this guy was spit shine from top to bottom. Hey, fellas, what the hell are you doing out? Come in here and get warm. Want some coffee? You want to finish your cigarettes? Don't worry about it. Well, 20 minutes later, we were in the Marine Corps. And the funny part about this, I go home and I tell, we're having dinner, and I tell my mom and dad and my sister, well, I joined the Marines today. And my mother almost had a heart attack.
Well, we're up in the 1960s now. Aren't
We're in 1960, the end of 1963. Beginning of 1963. January or February, somewhere in around.
The winter of '63.
The winter, oh jeez. So, my mother's very upset. Do you know what you're getting into? My father's tapping me on the back. Good boy. Now you're going to learn something.
Nice doggy, nice doggy.
Oh, jeez. So, after the bickering back and forth and blah, 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 there's a knock on the door, so I'm closer to the door. I got to answer the door, and here's this 15-foot Marine still in his blues. He saw me. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He promised me everything in the book. I was going to get air wing. I was going to be a machine gunner out of a helicopter. I mean, whatever I wanted, I was getting. Just sign here. Typical recruiter.
Can't imagine him being this honest.
He didn't have a quota. So he looked at me, and I thought he was going to have a brain explosion. And he says, well, I'm here to take Phyllis out. And that's my sister. Now, this guy is dating my sister, and I'm looking. The Marine is dating
From the recruiter?
Exactly. The exact same guy. That's what I'm saying. He was going to have a brain explosion when he seen me. So I looked at Phyllis, and Phyllis, boy, she was fuming.
Why?
Because he recruited me.
Oh.
And that was the last time she went outside and just chewed his ass out like you wouldn't believe. Came back in and well, that's the end of that, jarhead.
She said that.
Yep.
That's funny.
That was it. And he never saw the guy again. As a matter of fact, we went in on the buddy system, went through boot camp.
Where'd you do that?
Paris Island. And we went through ITR, Advanced Infantry Training in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And that was the last I seen him. We were supposed to go in on the buddy system.
Explain how boot camp was. What did you do in boot camp?
Oh, jeez. I got to censor a lot of it, and you know why. It was tough, especially if you did something wrong. You paid the price. But I can remember, like, the first, we got there at night, so bright and early in the morning. We had this sergeant, I think it was Sergeant Riley. I really feel bad about this. Sergeant Riley was a thin guy and fit his uniform well. I mean, DI's dressed, they gotta be. So, taking us all out for the run, he said, we're gonna go for a run and we'll see what you clowns are made out of. He didn't use the word clown, he used chipbird. And we're gonna see what you guys are made out of. So I think there were about maybe 50 of us in the platoon. And we get our greens on and start running. And we're running. And we're running. And you can see people fading away. But my buddy and I, Bill, were cross-country runners. So this was nothing to us.
Yeah.
And they're running and people are dropping out, and he's looking back to see how many he's got with us, and he's kind of got a little smile on his face, you know. And we're running, and he's looking back, and he says, oh shit, there's that Ed and that Bill guy still with me. And we're running, and you can start seeing a sweat coming out of his, what do you call it?
You're trying to run you down, huh?
Well, oh yeah, absolutely.
He wanted to see when you were going to.
Exactly. So then he kind of like made a U-turn, start running back to the barracks. But we woke up the next morning, or that day, or that night we went to bed and woke up. We were in pain. Absolute pain. Get out of bed. Squeaking and God. And he wasn't. So he was used to it. But
Well, he couldn't have been a DI without having that.
yeah, the guy was in shape. That's why they probably picked him to run us.
All part of it, you know.
Yeah.
And besides physical fitness, what were some of the other things you had to get done before you got through boot camp?
I was probably 130, 135 pounds. And besides stepping through the chow line, and I'd get maybe a piece of toast and an egg and a piece of bacon, you know, because I didn't really have an appetite. So the DI behind me tapping on the shoulder, 3 eggs, 4 pieces of bacon, 3 pieces of toast.
Oh, he made you do that.
Oh yeah, well, whatever the allotment was, he doubled and sometimes tripled it. And he said, that will be gone before we leave. So same with lunch. You know, if you had a sandwich, you know, like cold cuts lunch, he'd double up. You got to get more than that on you. We're going to fatten your butt up. And at dinner time, we'd have a steak. I'd have to get 2 steaks, 2 baked potatoes. I mean, the food was, you couldn't ask for better food. You could not ask for better food. But man, I'm telling you, I got out of boot camp and out of ITR. I weighed almost 170 pounds. I think I weighed 167 pounds to be exact. Now I go home, and that was quite an adventure getting home after ITR. And bless you, open the door, go up the stairs. Still the dog Patty was there. Patty kind of. This is the dog. What do I do? Eat him or what?
Who is it?
So I just go into where my mom and dad are, and I tap my mother on the shoulder. I scared the living hell out of her. And she just could not fathom that was me.
With that extra weight.
With that extra weight. I was built like, I mean.
Yeah.
Whew. And to go out with my buddies at night, you know, we'd go bar hopping or something like that, and all my friends out there, bartenders or bouncers, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, you had those, you know, and I'd have like my winter greens on, you know,
Oh, yeah.
so they really couldn't,
Yeah.
they couldn't tell. But, whoa, you know, even some of the, what I call the Westies, you know,
Yeah.
we all traveled, you know, but, and they were looking at me, and, oh man, it's a good thing we let that guy slide. Nobody recognized me. Nobody recognized me. I mean, once they got, you know, a visual, oh God, that's Ed. Oh man.
How'd you do on marksmanship?
I qualified 3 times as a sharpshooter. The last year, you know, I didn't really put a lot into it, and I qualified marksman. The only thing I missed was
Was it with the M1?
No, M14.
M14.
I still have an M14. I don't know whether I should be saying this on the air, but and I still have a 45.
Yeah, I kept my 45.
Yeah. I don't have the original one, but I do have a 45 and my and a M14. Not the original one, but
Yeah.
I have an M14. And I have a home in Lake Arrowhead, and I go to the range there and spreads the M14's legs, if you will. Test it.
Good.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do to graduate? What's the final test?
Oh boy, this was. It was called. What do they call it? The final PRT, physical readiness test. The final. You had to pass this to graduate.
Yeah.
Or they'd set you back until you did pass this, and it was very rigorous. But I did very well even prior to the PRT, and the final PRT is what I should say. And I ran the final PRT, no hiccups, wasn't even out of breath. I mean, just did everything. That includes the 3-mile run, or and I'm sure you're aware of the DIs wanted 100%, so they can get their little accolades, their little,
Sure.
and because they were always in competition, best platoon got this, that, and the other thing. So one DI comes up to me and he says, I want you to run for Williams. And I'm saying, what do you mean? He says, you're going to take his shirt, you're going to give him your shirt, and you're going to do this again. And I'm saying, I didn't know any better. That's my fault.
No.
I didn't know any better, so I said, sure. And I had to carry this guy, Corns, who's 235 pounds. He joined the Marine Corps football team after boot camp. This is how big this guy is. And I had to do the fireman carry and carry this guy, 100 yards or whatever, 50 yards, 100 yards. And I thought every bone in my back cracked.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I just couldn't, whoa. But I made it. And I did the rope, I did the 3-mile run, I did whatever that consists of. And then the guy has the nerve to ask me, he says, you're in pretty good shape. Did you ever consider recon? I never heard the term recon.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's recon? He goes, well, it's a section of the Marines, you'd be proud to be in, and this, that, and the other thing. And one of my buddies says, hey, you do not want to be a recon. You do not, unless you're absolutely insane. And I said, what's that? He said, man, they send them people out, do all kinds of stuff, and then you got to work your way back, and you got to do this. And I said, oh man, shit, I had a hell of a time doing this, and they want me to do that every day. I said, no, thank you. And then I hear there's a force recon outfit. So I can just imagine if I went through and made it to recon, then this same guy would have, well, won't you try force recon? I don't think so. I was in good shape, and I was proud of the shape that I was in. I was proud even to this day that I made it through boot camp. It's a special outfit. It's special people that make it through that.
It's one of the fun things to do is go down and watch a graduation.
I never did that. I never did that.
Well, anytime you wanted to go down there.
The parade deck, but I can remember walking the parade deck at first because my sister came down and her boyfriend came down to see me graduate. And wow, just to walk the parade deck without jogging or running or, doing that. Well, I thought, wow, this is great. This is life. I wish I shipped over that day I graduated. And the first day, I don't want to interrupt you, but the first day I can remember in boot camp, Sergeant Dennison. Yeah, I think he was the staff sergeant. He was the head DI. He says, "You guys are going to hate the guts out of me because I'm going to work the hell out of you. But the last day when you graduate, just before you get on that bus, I'm going to see tears out of your eyes.
You did.
Yeah.
At what rank did you start having to salute as a person senior? Was it always just an officer?
Oh, yeah, you only saluted officers.
Yeah. So I'm trying
Maybe in boot camp, they taught you how to salute.
Okay.
And then you would, but I really don't remember that. I don't remember saluting the staff.
Who? No, that's an officer too. So you go to special training after boot camp, which was, you said, at Pendleton?
Yeah.
And basically, was that just advanced tactics, things like that?
No, we did all of the. They did all of that
Go ahead and take a look.
in boot camp. I'm just going to shut it off. Probably a girlfriend that wants to dance tonight or something. You did all of that like advanced infantry training. That means you fired all the weapons and this, that, and the other thing. After advanced infantry training, I got my MOS notice as 2511, I think, which is wire communications. So you go 30 days leave, then you get on a plane that takes you to Camp Pendleton, and there you learn your trade, or you learn your MOS.
Is that something that you got just by virtue of...
It was luck.
Huh?
It was luck that I got that.
So you didn't ask for it, you just
No,
got it?
I asked for air wing. I wanted to be a machine gunner on a helicopter. Remember?
Kill.
What about that? My DI said I was going to get that.
Yeah. Oh, boy. So you burn up your leave, you're back, you go to
Camp Pendleton.
for training, and this gets us up to at least 66, 67, doesn't it?
Oh, no, this gets us up to 64.
64, okay. And so that training lasts how long, and what do you do?
We were at Pendleton for, let's say 5, maybe 6 months, and then we were headed overseas. Our training, if you will, starts in Okinawa. So we spent like 13 months in Okinawa, but from Okinawa we went to the Philippines, Corregidor, Japan, where the hell else did we go? I said the Philippines, and that's when our training kicked in, like the Philippines for jungle training, Japan for cold weather training.
Well, what did you actually get at Pendleton?
We got training in our MOS.
Which would be what?
2511, which is a wireman.
But what would they teach you?
They would teach you how to set up switchboards, field phones, how to repair.
Everything was wire to wire?
Yeah, or wire to switchboard to wire, or phone, wire, switchboard, other phone.
So,
If that makes any sense.
well, it was not what it is today.
No,
Yeah.
not hardly. Everybody's carrying their own little ear microphone thing,
Yeah.
which is cool. Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well, just think of the old days with probably a tin can and string. You run out of string and it's over.
Yeah.
Fend for yourself.
I think we all did that routine
Jeez.
with the string and the tin can.
Yeah.
If this point, then you're starting to be with guys you're going to be with when you go overseas. So are you making some pretty solid friends right
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they're. You didn't get to see my little.
now? Yeah. Your book of pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good friends. Well, I'll tell you, real good friends.
And so you go through your training at Pendleton, which is basically how things work and how you put them together.
Right.
And then go overseas
To apply your skills.
to learn it in a simulated combat situation
Exactly.
and work maybe with field problems.
Yes.
What-
Mm-hmm.
And are you always now with the same guys pretty much? Are you a team?
Yeah, we, wire section and radio section, we all knew each other, we all hung out together, and we worked together. I have a very close friend that we've been together for 50-something years. We met in boot camp, went through all boot camp together, went to Camp Benelin together, went to Vietnam together, did all our military service for 4 years. I think he was in for three, I think. But we can get to him later. Yeah, but the answer to your question was yes. We all worked together. We hung out together. We partied together, ate together, whatever.
Yeah.
It was everything together.
And how many guys would that have been roughly?
Oh, that might have been. Boy, at times I bet you it was 15, and there was some just maybe 3 or 4. It just depends.
Yeah.
One time there was 5 of us. Maybe 4 or 5 of us rented a 1-bedroom apartment just to get off base, and we all chipped in to pay the rent. And it was right outside San Clemente on Rose Avenue, I think it was, or Rose Lane or something. But that's where we went. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we wanted to get off the base, just get out of town, get into town and off the base. And, we'd buy groceries or just buy chicken dinners or whatever. And that's where we ate and watched TV. And, that was kind of like our escape.
Yeah, get it away. Now, do you have a girlfriend at this point that you're going to say goodbye to?
I don't think at that time, our first time going overseas, no. But our second tour, we were going to Vietnam. And it was around graduation day, and she asked me, would I go to the prom with her? And I'd like to. And, but I never, I had her phone number, but I never memorized it. I never had it on a piece of paper, or I did have it on. I couldn't find the paper, but just on the spur of the moment, pack up. We're headed.
Yeah.
Nobody knew where we were going. Just pack up. We're leaving in a couple of days. I had no way to get a hold of her, and I really, even to this day, I feel bad that she probably thinks I stood her up.
When you say pack up, roughly what would you be taking?
Everything you owned.
Such as?
In a sea bag. Everything you had. Every underwear, socks, uniforms, guns, mess kit. I mean, everything you owned went into a sea bag, and that's what you dragged with you.
So what
780. Are you familiar with the term 782?
Oh yeah.
782 gear, everything.
What would have been your TO weapon then?
TO was the M14.
And so you had your own M14. That
I
you
had, yep. That's right.
Now, did you go by ship or?
We went by ship. It was called the USS Breckenridge.
Interesting. That's a ski area there in Colorado.
Well, it was a ski area on a ship too. If your feet were wet and you're sliding down a ladder. But I can remember just vividly. These canvas racks you're in there, 5 or 6 high, and you talk about close quarters. I mean, it was just incredible.
Whoever got the top one,
I guess he was the lucky one.
Yeah, but you had to step on everyone else.
That's okay. It's better than being stepped on going up. It's okay if you're doing the stepping.
Yeah.
And I can remember, the first couple of nights, I mean, my lips were around the commode. I mean, everybody was just puking their guts up. It's just unbelievable. 6 or 7 days in a row just...
At least.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. So your first stop then would be where?
Our first stop actually was Hawaii for about 4 hours. Cinderella Liberty, they called it.
Were you in Honolulu or down?
think we're in Honolulu, where the big naval base is. Is it Honolulu?
Pearl Harbor is the big base.
Yeah, but all right, so what's really close to Pearl Harbor?
Well,
Honolulu?
yeah, because there's plenty of docking there for big ships.
Yeah,
you know,
then that's where we were.
and so they let you run in town to
Run in town, get in a fight, have a couple of beers, and shoot back home.
get back. So basically, then it was just a stopover to kill the boredom, and then
Probably, yeah, boost the morale or whatever.
then you're off where Philippines to Guam or
No, from there we went to Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Yeah, we were at. Can't think of the name of the town. But I used to get in all kinds of trouble there too. And I made Lance Corporal, which is an E3. And I just got, I was never a good garrison Marine. I didn't like the spit shine. I didn't like, every 5 minutes you got to clean your rifle. I was trained to be in communications, and that's just what I wanted to do. I didn't care where they sent me, just get me the hell out of town.
Yeah.
So my punishment for old Gunnery Sergeant Bertrand, we still communicate today. Oh, Gunny. Now I think he made Major or something, and I'll tell you another story. But, I ticked him off. I was late coming back from the base. I didn't want to come back. And so they had me down as AWOL, which is absent without authorized leave. And he said, I don't know what the hell we're going to do with you, Cullinan, but we're going to send you to NTA, and I hope I never see you again.
And explain NTA.
Northern Training Area. That's where the big battle.
On Okinawa.
Yeah, the big battle, people jumping off cliffs and. So my job was to set up a base. All the landlines set in, switchboards set in, and man, I was just in hog heaven. That was just what I was trained for, and I loved every minute of it. There was a stream running through the back end of the thing, and when I wasn't real busy, I'd be butt naked in that stream and having a cold beer, and then I get a call, well, did you learn your lesson? Oh, yes, sir. Not quite. Maybe 2 more weeks of punishment would handle this.
Yeah.
But this,
Don't ever do that again to me, please.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, oh, no,
Please. So even to this day, I think it was Major now. But we were in cold weather training after Okinawa. One of our other places was the base of Mount Fuji. Takagahara, I think, or Gotemba was one of or we were probably in between those two towns. And it was just cold, it was miserable. All the staff and officers had, heated tents and nice big pot belly stoves and, hot coffee and hot water, and, we had nothing. So I had a cold. And you just couldn't take a shower. It was just miserable. I mean, it wouldn't rain in water. It'd be the ice cubes coming down at you. And this one Staff Sergeant Schuster, for some reason, he just cottoned to me. We were both New Yorkers. He was at E6 staff. And he goes, Cullinan, you look like hell. I said, I'm freezing. I don't feel good, blah, 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 blah. So he's looking around, and he takes one of his chevrons, E6 chevrons, off of his shirt, puts it on mine. And I said, what are you doing? He said, well, you're gonna get a goddamn hot shower. And I said, well, yeah, but they're gonna throw me in jail for impersonating the staff. He said, yeah, I got that covered. You don't worry about it. Got in there, got a hot shower. Man, I felt like $1 million. Oh, man. And I never ever forgot that, what he did.
Yeah.
And one day he says, have you been up the hill? Meaning, have you been up to Mount Fuji? And I said, no. He said, come on, let's go.
From the base camp.
Yeah. And so we had civilian clothes. And so we're gonna go up. We went up to Mount Fuji, did a little skiing, if you call it that. I was sliding down the hill on my butt. But he kept calling me Ed. And I felt uncomfortable because I kept calling him Sarge or Sergeant Schuster. And I thought maybe I was being unfriendly or disrespectful by not calling him. I mean, we were off duty or whatever, and I called him Bill. He went so far up my back pocket, you would not believe. My butt is still sore from that chewing. He said, "Who am I?" And I am not Bill. I'm Sergeant Schuster. Yes, sir. And I've learned that even to this day. Jerry Bertrand, now that's his name. That's how he communicates with me. That's the gunnery sergeant that sent me to NTA, thought he was punishing the hell out of me. And I always called him Gunny. And all our communications, our emails back, "Hey Gunny, how you doing, blah, 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 blah." And he just kind of laughs, and I told him the story about Sergeant Schuster. I said, "I cannot take another butt chewing like he gave me, so you just deal with it." And and I told him the story. I says, that's what kind of guy he was. And Schuster, I think he became a major, coming up the ranks from private to a major.
Probably happened in Vietnam.
I never saw him in Vietnam. But you're probably right, because when I went to Vietnam as a lance corporal. I left Vietnam as a corporal, and shortly after coming to the States, I made sergeant. And there's another whole hell of a story I could tell you, but yeah. So from cold weather training back to Okinawa, then to the Philippines, and that's the indoctrination to jungle training. Mm-hmm. And that was miserable, just rainy and
humid.
Oh, jeez. But that prepped us for Vietnam.
Well, at some point then, do you come back to the mainland or do you go right on to Vietnam?
We remember the Gulf of Tonkin, that we were there 114 days off the LPH-8, I think it's called the Abraham Lincoln. And that was a helicopter landing platform for helicopters. So all the helicopters were on the deck. It's just like an aircraft carrier, but carried mostly helicopters. And all the helicopters were there, so nobody knew exactly what was going to happen after the Gulf of, the incident at the Gulf. And, so basically we were on standby.
Yeah.
Sailing up and down the Gulf for 114 days. And just to make a little light of this, it was miserable, very close quarter. So the captain of the ship says, "We're going to hold a swim call." Okay. So they wanted Marines that shot expert, or sailors that shot expert. And what that meant, we were going to swim in an area where they had the Willie Peter boats out. I forget what we call them Willie Peters. You land, and they had a big circle, and you swam in that circle. So if anybody spotted any sharks, they'd shoot the sharks. Well, I ain't going in there. But we did anyway. And some idiot bet me, or I bet them, that we couldn't dive off. I'm looking at that.
The deck?
The deck there.
Yeah.
And that's a good 40 feet from the top of that deck down to the water. And either we're betting each other, or you don't have a hair on you. You know what? If you don't dive off, don't jump off, dive off. Well, hell, man. And I'm kind of, man, when am I going to hit water? I mean, it just kept going and going because, you know, it just went up and down and up and down. And I guess I jumped off, went up this way. And, oh, man, I thought I split my head open. And I thought, I'm never going to do that. I'll be so much a chicken, they'd be pulling feathers out of me. Oh, God, that was probably one of the dumbest things I ever did.
But where are you now in your transferring from one island to another? Are you still going up and down the coast for time?
Yeah, we did for 114 days, and I don't know the timeline, but I think that was the end of our first tour, and we went back to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa went back to Pendleton, and by then a lot of the guys that we were with were finished with their tour of duty in the Marines and left. So then we get a new batch of recruits in, or boots if you want to call them.
Yeah.
And so now it's us training them instead of us being trained by the senior group that had just left. So the cycle begins all over again. And then we get orders, say we're going to Vietnam.
So are we up to 66 now or 65?
We're at 65. Around April, I don't know, it was April 4th or April 12th. I don't, for some reason, those two dates come to mind. And it was after President Johnson wanted to, under McNamara, I guess, or Westmoreland or whoever was in charge, said we're gonna send 150,000 more troops in there, or 200,000. I forget what the reinforcement were.
Yeah.
And so that was around the April period. So we're heading out to Vietnam, and we're off the coast of Da Nang. So we didn't know what they had us in our 782 gear, our steel pots on, our rifles, and whatever our tools of the trade were. And so we're climbing down the nets, and me and my buddy Joe, that's the guy we've been together for 50-something years. We're thinking, man, this is like World War II storming Normandy, because that's what they said we're going to be doing. We're going to be hitting China Beach. So, we're in these boats, and they're circling until I guess we're all finished puking, and they get us online, and then now keep in mind, we're invading. It's, in our minds, we're invading Da Nang. And so everybody's online, we're headed towards the beach, and I hear this ring ding 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 ring ding 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 ding, and I'm saying, what the hell is that? So I peek my head up. I still got my steel pot on, so I pick my head up and I'm looking. So I'm hitting my buddy. I said, Howard, you got to see this. I said, I'm sticking my head up. You can get killed. So I said, no, you got to look. So he peers up, looks at me, and here's 3 Air Force guys water skiing. We're invading China Beach. These guys are water skiing. These Air Force dudes water skiing.
What were they behind? What kind of a boat was pulling them?
Yeah. It was like a little rinky-dink boat. It's like a ding, 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 2-stroke or whatever. And so we pull up onto the beach. They lower the plank of whatever, the door, whatever they call it, the ramp. And we run out and we're looking around. There's people sunbathing over here, sunbathing over here. They're laughing at us. Holy, what the hell are we doing here? So we get in these cattle cars, and we're all, what the hell is going on here? We thought we were going to be shot at and blown up.
Yeah.
We had visions of World War II, Normandy, storming the beaches of Normandy. Wow. So we get in these cattle cars, and we were probably the 3rd, maybe the 4th cattle car. And the first one hit some kind of a landmine, and nobody got hurt, but it blew blew a couple of the tires off the rear end, or maybe all four of the tires off the rear end. You could see it, quick bounce, and the guys inside were just.
Yeah.
Nobody, maybe somebody sprained an ankle or whatever, but it wasn't real serious. And our staff said, "Well, welcome to Vietnam. Keep your helmets on." And then we, this is like a quarter of a mile out past the air base, quarter of a mile, half a mile max. And these guys are out there water skiing. Who the hell's guarding these people? But you talk about a complacent attitude that these guys had. These guys were in air-conditioned buildings. The mess halls had cloths on them. You officers are something else. And
We earned it.
yeah, right. So we said it. We get into our. It was called Happy Valley. So we get in, and sure enough, we have to get in these little mighty mites, and go around the Air Force base, set up the communication, set up the Claymore mines and whatever else, had been set up.
Well, they were for your protection, the Claymores, weren't they?
It was, Claymores they're kind of shaped like that. And the pellets, maybe 200-300 pellets, depending on the size of the Claymore, would if you tripped a wire, would start a spark, and the composition C or C4 would ignite and blow out, and that would send pellets or BBs or whatever was out there, and they'd cover an area. By the time I got to that wall, it might be 25 feet.
Yeah.
And then you set up another one that would pick up the rear end of the 25-foot span that it had, and then you keep on, going around the whole base, and that's how we set it up.
Could you activate these by any other means than a tripwire?
You can do a tripwire, or you can send a charge to it. We had what they call, what the hell? It was a little phone, and when you cranked it, it sounded like a cricket. I forget what can't think of what the nomenclature was, but you can push this little switch, and that sent an electrical charge. It'd shock the hell out of you, but that's what would start.
It would fire.
Ignite it, yeah.
Yeah.
And if it didn't go off, then whoever was operating the field phone would make a note, this one didn't go off, and then they'd call us back and say, hey, post number 5 didn't go off. And it was an old saying, he who sets it gets it. So it was one of mine. But you'd be surprised how many malfunctions there were, period. Just wouldn't do to be hooked up right. It doesn't take 2 brains. Here's 2 posts right there. It doesn't take brain surgery to hook these up. So again, the term was he who sets it gets it. So these were one of mine, and I ain't about to go up there and fiddle around with this thing and see why it didn't go off. I just back off about 100 yards, about 50 feet, 75 feet, and shoot at it with my M14. Okay, next.
Would that disable it or fire it?
It'd fire it. It'd set it off because the heat of the bullet would also ignite the composition, the C4.
C4, yeah. Because it was all over the whole back.
Right, exactly. And it had, I still can picture this. There's a little tag. It says, opposite end facing enemy. And that's the curve, opposite end facing enemy. And don't forget. I had several of those, but I would even tell the guys, don't go anywhere near those things, just shoot at it. And keep shooting till it's off. It goes off, because then eventually it will go off.
So Was this a drill you were running? Was there an actual CP you were setting up?
This is actual CP. Yeah, this is with this. This is real.
You're in you're in Indian country now.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So Da Nang, the air run was kind of north-south. Are you around on the west side of
We were probably west
on the
side,
west side of the
or
airfield?
the front of it, whatever you
Because
want.
there's a nice, I didn't get into it, but people I talked to, Da Nang said there was kind of a little town in there, you know, where you could go and have a drink and
Oh yeah, yeah, right outside the base.
some bars and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you a story about some bars too. But you might have been the major we stole the Jeep from. So I might have to pass on that.
See, down at Chulai, we didn't go off the base. It was Indian country.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Da Nang was, I guess it was because of the amount of servicemen that were there. You know, you had the Air Force there, and you had the Navy there, and you had the Marines on the perimeter. So the only thing they would do was just launch mortars up and over.
yeah,
You know, I mean, that's all we ever heard. We never heard of any filtrations at the time that I was there. But during the Tet Offensive, man,
oh yeah, I was there for that.
they had what, something like 35,000 VCs, and they hit 13 or 14 cities all at one time. And
It was a
oh
mess.
my God,
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. So
In fact, when you were talking about that side, I don't really remember exactly where Monkey Mountain was, other than it was, I think,
Monkey Mountain, yeah, I heard
it
of
was
that.
between the airfield and the water. And the guys there, it was kind of like a volcano.
Did they
had been
call
there.
that also Marble Mountain?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew where Marble Mountain was, but I never heard of Monkey Mountain.
Well, when it came time to dump the honey buckets, there was all these little holes in this lava. So they just go out and, well, eventually it starts stinking so bad,
Jesus.
they poured gasoline
Oh, God.
and lit it, and that stuff came.
Oh, my God. I bet you that was breathable.
You couldn't go near that place
Oh,
for
God.
weeks.
What caused the holes, though? Mortars? Oh, my God.
There was, the only time I landed at Da Nang is a couple of times when I had to refuel. I was short coming down from the north, and Chulai was just a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But eventually it was the only airfield there for a long
Yeah.
time, and then they had that's when Chulai was built, is to give them another airfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's right.
so, then going on with, did you go to other places and put in other CPs besides that one on the west side?
Oh, yeah, we were in, the next CP, usually we went on operations. And search and destroy, I think was the term. And, they sent a radio operator out with a company, and they sent a wireman out with a company. And we didn't really set up, a huge command post. It was just a kind of field grade command post. We ran a wire out to one of the lookout points, and they might have had maybe 5 of them. So you ran what they call a loop, and at the end of the loop, those 2 wires went into the colonel's phone, tent, or whatever,
Yeah.
And that way, if it was cut, you'd still have the other half of the loop to communicate with,
Yeah.
and that was handy. Probably the best way to set something up, because if somebody tripped and knocked it out, you could still go around the other way. But that was, again, just on operations, maybe 3 or 4 days, max a week, whatever, how long the operation. Then
Were they search and destroy type thing?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
But you always, you go on these search and destroys, but you always had a command post back. You send a platoon out of a company, and they did what they had to do, and then they'd come back, and, and then maybe the next night they'd send another platoon out. But there was a command post was there, the captain or major, whoever was
But if
Let's
a
see.
wire was cut, you try to go out and fix it.
Oh,
that
you
way.
had to.
Yeah, so,
That's right.
and that's where it could be pretty tough,
Pretty hairy, yeah.
because I don't know how long you would let those forward, CP or those, what you call them, spotters out there. But
Minute we got word, we went out. It's just that simple. That was our job.
now you had to go out as a team, didn't you?
Well, we'd like to have a whole battalion going out with us. But I used to fight like hell. I said, nobody's going to go out unless there's at least 2 other people with it. Marine Corps thrives on the buddy, and I'd have to tell some of these captains
Yeah.
and lieutenants that this is the way it has to be. Marine Corps taught me in a boot camp, it's the buddy system. I want a couple of buddies going out there with me. Oh, okay.
Well,
And I would always I would never go follow the wire. You never follow the wire. The wire is cut. They could have, C-ration can. They'd stick a grenade in a C-ration can. You walk by, you tripped it, which pull the grenade out, release the spoon, and bam, your history. I'd grab what they call an RL7, which has about 1/4 of a mile wire. So I always ran brand new wire to them. And I would not follow
yeah,
there, just maybe 15, 20 feet.
abandon it and forget it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And, maybe you'd want to, there was times you couldn't get the wire supply, just couldn't get it to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And so what I'd have the guys do is start from maybe outside the switchboard and just yank on the wire.
If you could pull it in.
Yeah, and just, if you pulled it in, if you pull it all the way in, you can gather and get a guesstimate of how long the wire was and where it was cut. So maybe you can tie or splice it to where the end was from the switchboard and then run it in a different direction. So, because at the end of that wire might have been the hand grenade.
Yeah,
So, or some jerk waiting for you to come by in a tree
yeah,
and shoot you. So,
yeah. It's kind of dangerous.
well, this is what happened to a buddy of mine. He was in Charlie Company, and they got hit. Oh, Hill 21, Jesus. Oh, they were hit, knocked out the line, and he was CW. I don't know if you've seen this picture. Can I go walk up there?
Oh, sure. I can get it too quick.
And he was my buddy, and he was the kind of guy. This is what DR.DAVE set up for me. This is me. That's him, CW man. The kind of guy did his job and never complained, never insisted. Basically, he knew what his job was and he did it. So the landline was cut, and he asked the captain or something, and the captain said, "We can't spare any men. Just go outside and see if the trouble is. If you don't see the trouble, then you call command post and you have them guys come out and look at it," which was not the thing to do. But he insisted, and so that's what CW did, went out and got ambushed.
Now, in this picture, are you on the left or the right?
This is me, this is CW.
CW is the Marine on the left side. That's the gentleman we're talking about that was killed going out and trying to repair a wire.
And we went out, and my other buddy, Mike Youngblood,
Was he by himself?
yeah,
Hmm.
and he asked, and the captain said, "No, we can't spare anybody, but just go outside. If it's in the compound, fix it. If it's on the out," but he already knew it was on the outside of the perimeter, and probably about maybe 50 feet outside the perimeter. You know, you got guys laying in a rice paddy, cut the wire and just wait for some clown to come by and then nail them.
And they knew the wire was there and they cut it.
Well, they cut the wire, yeah.
You know,
You'd find cut wire because of the residents of the area would use it to tie stuff to their wagons that, you know, they're taking to market, or, you know, I mean, they would just cut it, use it, and screw it. You know,
Yeah,
they
it's
got
like-
more, Marines got more wire, you know, and that's, so you'd have to
Yeah.
repair that, and
so he was one of your team guys?
yeah, good friend. We went through boot camp together. We used to go party together, raise hell together.
Now, the bracelet that's in this picture,
That's not his. No, as a matter of fact, I think that is. I'm trying to, because I did buy a bracelet, and from a Marine, and Dr. Dave put it next to him, and I think we got one for. Does
it
that?
says Eckert. This one
Yeah.
says Eckert.
All right, that's the one that I paid $50 for, and Dr. Dave put it.
And this is your buddy.
No, this is not my buddy.
Okay, okay.
That's, yeah, this is for POWs.
Okay.
He was a POW. They didn't have any, Dr. Dave figured, you know, we had 58,000 KIAs, and, you know, where are you gonna put them on a wall here? You know,
Yeah.
there was just no room. And he said it would just be crazy to try to attempt something like that to
I think, and I'm not going to swear on this, but down at the D.DAVE Museum, they made up dog tags for all the KIAs,
really.
and they're hanging on a string
Wow.
from the chains from the ceiling, and a fan
Oh, wow.
is blowing back.
Now, where's this at?
in New Orleans. In the D.DAVE, there's
Oh,
50-something thousand of
Yeah.
these up there. And it's
and the
kind of,
wind tinkling like
Yeah.
chimes.
and it, you know, it's kind of like
We're here.
we're here.
We're still here.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fabulous.
And I thought,
Dr.
well,
Dave know about that?
well, 55,000 is,
Yeah, I know, but still, you know, 10 at a time.
he probably does.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know.
is fabulous.
I heard that from someone else,
Oh,
and I thought, you know, well done,
absolutely.
well done.
Absolutely.
Now, do you have a full 14 months in this tour?
I've got,
No, on the one we're talking right now.
yeah, it's 13 months.
And at the end of that time, you're going out on different jobs, on different, you go, if a unit's gonna go out in the field and do, say, search and destroy, you're with them.
Right,
You're out laying wire
exactly.
and running a little bit behind where
Oh,
the,
I'm not running behind the guys that are actually going on the search and destroy mission. I'm behind where the CP is, where the command post is, where the CO of that particular group is. It could be a captain, could be a major.
yeah,
You know, that's who I'm with, and the radio operator. So when you send a search and destroy group, it might be a squad, depending on, it might be 2 squad, it might be the whole damn platoon going on a search and destroy
Yeah.
mission.
for the camera, how many men would be in the squad?
About 13 men in a squad, 52 in a platoon, something like that, depending on what their support group is.
And what would be the normal dispersion of weapons if you had a,
Oh, you'd have, again, this is a little out of the realm of my responsibility, but you'd have machine gunners. I think every squad had a machine gunner, an M60. Every squad would have a ammo humper, a guy that carried ammo. Every squad would have like a grenade launcher, a guy that had a grenade launcher. And that would be, you know, maybe 3 of the heavy weapons that they have, their grenade launcher, I don't know if they had bazookas there. I didn't see a bazooka in my time there. But rocket launchers, grenade launchers, not a rocket launcher, I'm sorry. We had a machine gunner, ammo humper, and a rocket, a grenade launcher. Yeah, boy, that's tickling my brain to figure that out. But
Yeah.
each squad would have that. So if they sent a platoon out, you had 3 guys with machine guns, you had 3 guys with grenade launchers, and
So a platoon then would have how many guys?
platoon, let's see, there was 13 in the squad, 26, 52 maybe.
So it would be a captain probably, maybe a second lieutenant.
Maybe, yeah, it might be a lieutenant with maybe a second lieutenant. But, you know, a lot of times it was just up to the sergeant.
Yeah, a good staff NCO.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many guys though did it take to hump your equipment to set up the CP?
Me.
Just one guy?
Me.
You could put it on your back and take it
And
out?
I'd ask for help. You know, I'd carry what they call a donut. A donut weighed about 25 pounds and it had a half a mile of wire in it. Sometimes I'd carry 2 donuts and maybe a field phone, and I'm carrying like 60 pounds of
Did
stuff.
you carry a weapon too?
And my rifle. I wouldn't go anyplace without my rifle. Oh,
Did you
Betsy.
ever carry a sidearm too?
No, I wouldn't. I probably could have, but I just needed old Betsy. That's what I call her. Just
Yeah.
needed old Betsy. I could handle her quite well.
And
Tapped her on the butt plate every once in a while, and she was real good.
how many clips would you carry besides?
This would bother me, but it only bothers me now. You'd have 2 magazines, 20 rounds, and maybe 1 in the rifle. So you got 20, 40, you got 60 rounds. I said, how the hell? And today I'm thinking, you know, I thought that was cool, you had enough ammo, but I wasn't in the heat of the battle,
Yeah.
you know. But you get guys with, you know, a lot of guys would think these guys are showboating, but these machine gunners, I mean, you see them with straps of
Yeah.
machine gun belts, you know, and that's you know, people say, oh man, that's a little ad lib or a little showboating, or, you know, little John Wayne. That ain't John Wayne at all. That's real life.
Now,
And you get the guys, you guys behind the machine gunner with ammo cans of, and them things are heavy. Plus they got to carry their own pack and their own rifle, and they got to keep up with the machine gunner, which is carrying a machine gun, all the ammo he can carry around his neck plus his pack. So everybody's carrying maybe 75 pounds of stuff.
you know, you had the tripod and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So in this 13-month tour, were there some high points and low points that you remember?
Well, it depends on what you call a high point.
I
High
mean, where you
points.
had a good mission, and then
Oh,
some.
every mission we came back from was a good mission.
Yeah, in that sense.
We were probably the toughest I went on, me and my buddy Joe. Anytime I went out with a company, I'd sign, I said, Joe, what company are you going out with? He said, well, I'll be going out with Charlie Company, A Company, Bravo, whatever. And I said, good, okay, I got your back on that. And we went to Quezon. So I don't know whether you'd call this a high point or a low point, a point in between, but there were times Quezon was lit up like a candle. It was just,
I spent a little time over here.
it was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep, it was going to be the next Dien Bien Phu,
yeah,
and they were all around there.
Quezon lasted, we were in Operation Hastings. Now, Operation Hastings was the biggest operation before Tet. Tet became the biggest operation. But before that, it was 3 weeks of Operation Hastings. And that was Quezon. And so whether you call it a high point or a low point,
Oh,
it was a mess, we'll put it
a
that
lot
way.
of guys got killed at Quezon.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we weren't at that, we weren't at the, when the Army had it. Bless you. The Green Berets, I think, had caisson at the time. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Green Berets and Marines. But that was like the second, maybe the second that attempt for the Viet Cong to take caisson. We were at the first, maybe 2 months prior to that one. And that's when we set that, they built it like an Arab strip there, and that's when we set up the communications. And every night that line was getting cut. And I can remember one night we had Sergeant Cumberbatch. And I really had a tremendous amount of respect for this guy. I'll show you a picture of him. Tremendous amount of respect for this. He didn't get along with the major, and I think the major was prejudiced. And one night a line went out. This is Sergeant Cumberbatch right in here. The line went out, and the major calls him, Sergeant Cumberbatch, the line went out, and I want you personally out there to fix it. And Cumberbatch said, aye, sir. And it sounded like he only wanted Cumberbatch out there to fix it. So I, and the respect I had for this guy was like, he was my brother. And he always picked on me because I was the littlest guy trying to grow a mustache. He goes, get that pussy hair off your face. So I just saw him go with you, and he said, you've been out because the major wants me out. He said, I'm coming with you. So we went out, and it wasn't no big thing. It was just cuts. A tank ran over to some damn thing, and he never forgot that.
That you went with him.
That I went with him, and so he calls. No, it's the major. I forget what the hell they called him. He had a nickname. Garcia. Had something to do with Garcia. Anyway, major called him back. Is finally got that line fixed, huh? Took 30 seconds, Just outside his tent, he probably broke it himself just to harass people. But he never forgot that. He said it could have been out there in the middle of the jungles, I still would have been with him. Just had a lot of respect for the guy. He taught me a lot, believe me. A lot about life. I'm still some punk kid, 19 years old. The stories he used to tell. I can't even mention this, the stories he would tell me, so maybe afterwards.
Yeah. Well, you reach a point then where you're now a sergeant in this tour?
I made corporal probably halfway through that second tour. I made sergeant, I think, probably at the end of the tour. I might have made sergeant on the airplane. I don't know. But when I landed in Camp Pendleton, I had sergeant stripes on me.
Well, that and the sergeant's a pretty high rank, even though it's not an NCO.
Yeah.
And but
it is an NCO.
Well,
He's Sergeant E5. Corporal started NCO. Sergeant E5 is an NCO. E6 is staff NCO.
Forgot that they were E5s now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that extra rank.
And cross rifles.
Yeah, keeps screwing me up. But with that, what would you pick up as additional duty from being a corporal?
Oh, you were in charge. You were in charge of the wire section, and one of the chiefs of the whole communications platoon.
So you would pick up how many more men that you would be responsible for?
Oh, wire section was probably about 13, probably 50.
And
But that was shared. There was other sergeants.
yeah, but you're now a much more responsible person
Yeah,
as a sergeant.
yeah.
That's a pretty respected rank in the Marine Corps.
Yes, it is.
And
For some people. You get, now keep in mind, now we're back at the States and we're training the new guys. And I had one incident that I heard a scuffle going, it wasn't really just loud noise. Now, NCOs, now we got our own quarter. We're behind the wall lockers, you know, so they put them straight out, so it's kind of room for this, for the NCOs. And I heard yelling and, you know, any minute would have been, it sounded like a fight gonna go on. So I just ran out. Oh, I had my pants, I had my trousers on, but I didn't have my shirt. I had an undershirt on, didn't have my shirt. What the hell's going on out here? You know, who the F are you? And I said, you're gonna find out in about 30 seconds, right after you tell me what the hell's going on out here. You know, this guy's like a foot taller than me, and, you know, I'm a skinny guy, I'm still 135 pounds, you know, the chevrons weighed more than I did, for Christ's sakes. So, one guy said, well, I want the top rack, and this guy thinks he can have the top rack, and this is what's going on. I said, who was here first? He goes, me. Okay, you get the choice of your racks. And the big guy said, F are you? And he said, I'll be right back. So, I didn't put my shirt on. I grabbed my, you know what an entrenching tool is? It's the shovel that folds up, and you can use it as an axe. So I threw my shirt at him, and I banged on the metal part of the rack. I opened that shirt, pal. And then he saw the sergeant stripes, and man, he just, oh, I'm sorry, Sergeant, I didn't know. And this, you just keep your mouth shut. That's all you got to do.
well, you missed all the fun when Zumwalt was CNO and everyone, beards were legal and long hair and afros, and
Jesus.
you know, it was a different time in the Marine Corps.
Boy, I tell you, I couldn't, like Sergeant Cumberbatch, he used to make fun of my little cat hairs or something. I forget what he called it. Well, I knew what he called it.
Or did you have time to write letters home and get some candy from Mom and Pop, or?
You know, we got good care packages. They were well supported. We were well supported. It was only in the 70s you got all this animosity about us being in Vietnam. You know, Marines were nothing but, not just Marines, but you know, the military in Vietnam were rapists and baby killers and, you know, all that nonsense, and drug addicts, and, you know, I got there at 65. We left in 66, half of 66. I never heard of marijuana, never was involved with it. I don't know anybody that was involved with it or any kind of drugs at all. It's just the 70s era was...
That's true.
We just, marijuana, like, what's that? Oh, that's, people call it Latin lettuce or Tijuana tea, or still, when in one ear, and I had no idea what it was about.
Well, someday our country's going to wish they had treated marijuana with a little more respect.
Yeah, and you hear about it now. Yeah.
You're going to see kids 10 and 11 years old high on marijuana,
Yeah,
kids driving cars and killing themselves.
that's right.
Because
That's
their little
exactly right.
brains are still developing.
It's all politics.
You know,
It's all
money.
politics. Money and politics. It's
Money.
just what it is.
Well, listen, when you then finish your tour, your 13 months are up, what is the Marine Corps saying they want you to do when you get back to Conus?
Well, after the tour, you know, we come back to Pendleton, and again, that starts the cycle all over again, where I was what they call a boot. I was being trained. Now, after coming back from Vietnam, I'm training the boots. Boots meaning the guys fresh out of boot camp, and, you know, it's their turn to go
But
in
it's
Vietnam.
with your MOS, so it's all in that
Exactly,
MOS.
exactly. I'm training people to be wiremen.
And
And
the sophistication of the system is still the same. There's not much in upgrades or,
yeah, there's no, nothing as elaborate as it is today. I mean, there's still two wires getting hooked up to a field phone or a switchboard, and that's wire breaks. You go out and tie it together, and it's still the same, antiquated, but very simple.
yeah. And how long do you do that?
After, I probably had 6 months. So that was April. The April is 12. 13 is June. July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. I had 7 months before my,
Discharge?
yeah, before my,
Oh,
and that spent training.
are there some old girlfriends you called up now, or you're meeting new dates? Or?
There was one that kind of hung in there during my tour.
Would you write to her and
Oh yeah,
write back?
yeah. As a matter of fact, this little album, I would send her pictures, and she put this together and gave it to me.
Okay.
Plus, I would send a lot of money home, and she would put that into a bank account for me.
For you?
Yeah.
Yeah, where was this bank? Back in,
Venice, California.
where?
In Venice.
Venice,
Yeah.
okay.
Right down, it was Venice, the main street that goes through Venice. It's right by the Santa Monica Airport. There was a bank there.
And you picked that for what reason?
I didn't pick it, she did. I
Oh,
just told her,
okay.
honey, I'm sending money back. Just get an account. And any check I send back to you.
Were you
Stick
getting
it
any
in.
hazardous duty pay or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we got another $50 or something.
Was it due to the MOS?
No, it was due to overseas combat training, being in a combat thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think everybody got that.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe, I don't know
Yeah.
for sure, but I think everybody got that.
Were you faced with taxes or anything when you got home? Was it all non-taxable?
I can't remember. I don't remember that. I
I
don't.
don't either, that's my problem.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, I'm sure the government got some of it,
Yeah, at least social.
But we got, I can remember on paydays, there'd be a captain there. There'd be a captain sitting at a table, had two armed guards standing right, one to the right of him. He had a 45 on the table, shelling out 10s or 20s. Is your pay correct? Count your pay. Aye, aye, sir. Is your pay correct? Yes, sir. Sign here. Aye, aye, sir. You had to go through all the regimental saluting and bout faces and, Jesus.
Hey, let me tell you, if the paymaster is short.
You bet it comes out of his pocket.
I had that once,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I had, only it was MPC, it wasn't American money.
Yeah, MPC, monopoly money.
Yeah. And I sweated it out until the last
MPC,
guy was
geez.
paid.
Yeah, Jesus.
That I had made a mistake.
Oh, God. And that was an episode on MASH. Do you ever watch MASH?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love MASH. And there was an episode where Hawkeye was the paymaster, and he was short $20, or I forget what. And man, he was just going. How am I going to pay you back? I ain't got $20. I had to laugh through the whole because it just brought back memories.
When you're stateside and you know you're getting out, are you starting to think about where you're going to go and what you're going to do while you're still in the Marine Corps?
Me and this another Sergeant Carr, really super guy. We hooked up or teamed up when we hit Pendleton. He was in a different part of the barracks or split. You got the hallway and then there's a barracks here. And well, Sergeant Carr was in another barracks, and we met at the mess hall, and he was just newly ranked to sergeant and myself, so we were kind of
Yeah.
buddying up because we're trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do. Now we're sergeants. Now what do we do? We got to grow up,
Yeah.
So we hit it off, and he goes, "Hey, what are you going to do when you get out?" I said, "Man, I haven't got a clue." He said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to go to Palomar Junior College and take up welding." Welding? What's that? Yeah, well, come on, okay, what the hell? So we after lunch or dinner, whatever the heck it was, we are after dinner hours, I guess. And we'd jump in his car. He had a car, so we'd go to Palomar Junior College, signed up for welding. And so we had a little tour of the welding class. Oh man, this sounds pretty cool. You put this mask on, start melting wires and what else. I think that lasted maybe 3 trips. I thought, this is. And I was saying to myself, why don't I just call the phone company? I mean, I hook up wires. I know what a phone looks like. I can know you talk and listen at this end. Hey, I'm expert at this. So I tried out Pac Bell, Pacific Telephone Company, Pac Bell, I think it was. And I think it was political. I'm not saying, but they didn't hire me, and I think it was because of the Vietnam thing.
Yeah.
So he says, where you might try? You might go down to, this is Oceanside. Well, you might go up to Santa Monica, General Telephone. They'll hire anybody. This is what they said. They'll hire anybody. I remember this clown. And so I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." I went up and they hired this clown. I spent 5 years, and I really liked it. I really, I didn't have to duck or look around to see if anybody's going to shoot me or anything. And it was a good experience. I lasted 5 years with them.
Were you a road guy, or were you?
Funny thing, I started out, I figured I'd be climbing poles, which I wanted to do. Go there, climb poles and, just splice wire together and, do construction work and this, that. But they put me in the office. And I'm saying, well, what the hell am I going to do in the office? So it turns out, when you call and you place an order for a phone, you talk to this gal and she writes your phone or your address down, name, address, and a lot of how you're going to pay the bill. And then that piece of paper goes to me. So I have to look at the address, and then I look at a book that has all kinds of cables and pairs, a pair of wires within this cable, and then there's terminals. So you have, and also when you pick up a phone, you hear a dial tone. That's called a line switch when you have the dial tone. And then when they give you a number, that's called, what is that called? The normal number, line switch, dial tone. Okay, so now my job is to find a line switch, hooks up to a normal, which is your phone number, and then from there you got to find a cable, and within that cable you got to find a pair, which is 2 wires. That's called a pair. And then you got to find what they call a B box. If you ever ride down the street and you got a couple of big phone trucks parked in front of a square, big square box, that's called a B box. And that's where these guys now, they've got the cable on one side and they got the pair on the other side. So they're hooking that piece of cable to that pair that goes off to a certain terminal that's either in the building or the telephone pole. You see a big black box on some of the telephone poles. Now, and from there, the lineman or the guy, the installer, goes out and he hooks what they call a drop. He'll find that pair terminal out of the terminal and hook drop another pair of wires down either into the residence, what they call a connector block, a connector box. Anyway, it's grounded, so if lightning hits it, it doesn't burn the house down. And from there, there's what they call inside wire, IW, and you ask where do you want your phone, and the guy will drill down through the floor, put the wire up, and put the phone. But nowadays they got what they call pre-wire. Your whole house is pre-wired. So any place you want to put a phone, you just plug it in to a terminal that's maybe in a different part of the house, or if you live in a single family home, go to the side of the house, usually by the gas meter, you'll see a square bar, whatever color house you're in. It'll say telephone, and one will say TV.
I see.
So you pop that open, you hook the wires up, and then your whole house is lit up.
Now, one thing, you're home, and you're on one coast, and your parents are just about on another one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Pennsylvania.
3,200 miles away.
Yeah, is there any intercourse getting back to see them?
I went, well, after I get out, after I joined the phone company, about 5-6 months after that, my dad died. So now we're at a period of 1967, and he was 67 when he died. And I went home, for that. Went to Dinkles, paid my mom's bills, and
see any old girlfriend?
I'm trying to think. No, Nancy got married. I don't think I stayed that long because I had a girlfriend here in California, Phyllis, great lady. And if you're listening, Phyllis, you're a great lady. And she worked for the phone company in the same office that I was in, so we kind of hooked up, and really a sweetheart.
But how was your mother then after the dad died?
My mom was fine. We still had my brother living there and my 3 sisters, and my mom came up with Alzheimer's, and my sisters took care of her and did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Stuck with her. And,
so she stayed at home until she died?
yeah.
And
Well, they put her, like I had to do with my wife. You had to put her in a care center because sometimes it just gets too overwhelming for
that's
you.
24/7?
Yeah.
It never
It never ends.
never
That's
have
right.
a minute off.
Right.
Because
There was times I found a knife under my wife's pillow, and there were times I'd go to the grocery store and she'd be walking around the neighborhood with a knife in her hand wanting to kill her brother and sister. I mean, it just got
no, that's a major concern.
very, very
Major.
Very major.
The concern is that they'll move while you're not watching.
Oh,
They'll
exactly.
They'll get out.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly. One neighbor called the cops. This neighbor's an idiot anyway, but didn't know. All my neighbors knew Judith. They would look after her, if Judith came in the house or come out of the house or something, one of the neighbors would spot her. They'd invite her over for coffee or tea or whatever, till I got back. But you can't keep asking your neighbors to watch them,
No.
walking up.
Mm-mm.
So one idiot called the cops, and I had 2 ladies, police officers, and one of the idiot neighbor says, she's running around the block with a knife in her hand wanting to kill people. Just made it as rotten as possible. So one of the officers, and now somebody had called me, my other neighbor called me and said, Ed, we got the police outside, the jerk neighbor called the cops on Judith and blah, 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 blah. So I'm in Costco. I have to leave my cart, as I'm shopping for groceries, leave the cart, run out. People thought I just ran out because I stole something out of Costco. And jump in the car, go home. And I'm coming down the street and I'm pulling into the driveway just as this cop is pulling out her baton. And my other neighbor comes out Jackie, another sweetheart, comes out and she goes, "Don't do that. Her husband's here. She has Alzheimer's. She really doesn't know what she's doing." But what had happened is the cop reached out to grab her arm, you know, and she swelled her arm back and hit the lady cop in the shoulder, and then the lady cop pulled her baton out. I said, "Don't do that, because I'll take that son of a bitch away from you and I'll use it on you."
Yeah.
And so what's the matter with her? And she says, "She has Alzheimer's. She has no." "Well, how come she's not being, you know, under care, this, that? You better do something with her, or we'll do something with her, you know." So
Now,
that's when I had to look for a place
so who,
for her.
part of the family though, still stayed in the house? Or did the house have to be sold
Oh,
after your mother died?
that was a rental.
Oh,
After my mom died, you know, we had a good landlord. He was an Irish guy, Magooey. I'll never forget him. Now to me, when I was a kid, 6 years old, anybody that drove a black Cadillac and had a cigar hanging out of his mouth, to me was, I gotta be that guy. I gotta be that guy. Had a big black hat on, big black Cadillac, big old cigar juice hanging down of his. So he goes, "Evan, I want you to tidy up the front yard. It doesn't look too good." "Oh, yes, Mr. McGooey." And you know, maybe there might have been a piece of paper or something there, and I'd rattle it up, put it in my pocket, and wave me over, "Give me $1." And I'd give that dollar to my mother. "Oh, look what Mr. McGooey gave me." And my mother go out and pay bills or get groceries with that dollar, you know. I'll never forget him. And then my present wife, and I'm skipping a little bit, but we got into real estate, and together we had like 40 years of real estate. And we knew what we were doing. We were very successful. That's why I can pay the $5,200 a month to keep her where she's at. So I had a respectable car. It was like a Toyota Camry or Avalon or whatever. I mean, it was a nice, respectable car. She goes, "It's about time you moved up." Because she had a Mercedes. You know. And I said, "Well, you know, I always wanted a Cadillac." And she goes, "Well, why?" I says, "You know, when you drive around a Cadillac, you know, you made it." She goes, "You drive around in a Mercedes, you made it big time." So, my wife is a very beautiful, smart lady, so I'm not going to say no. This thing cost me $75,000. And the Cadillac was like, "I could have saved $25,000. She said, "Nope, that's what we're having." And she always had one. And from that day, which is about 20 years ago, I'm still driving a Mercedes. Not the same one. Still driving a Mercedes.
see me, if I liked it, I'd still be driving the same one.
Well, you know, in real estate, it's all show, you know. I'd have to wear a Rolex watch. I don't wear it every day, but when I was in the real estate, I've been out of real estate now 10 years, but I always had the Rolex. She bought me that Rolex watch, so I don't want any damage to be done with it. If I go someplace special, you know, I'll
put it
the watch
on.
Yeah.
Is it the wine kind?
No, it's, what do you call it? It's perpetual motion, or
But you don't have to wind it,
no, you don't. No, it just when you move your hand.
because some of the older ones,
Well, you know, this one she bought me was, I think now it's about 65 years old. But she picked the creme de la creme of the time and paid good money for it. $3,600, and that was 15 years ago, 16 years ago. today it's worth $6,000.
At least.
Yeah, and she says it's an old watch, but this has got so many jewels in this thing. You pop the lid off, and you'll need an expert to put the lid back on again. And it had
Yeah, you can't take them apart.
yeah, it had a special crystal on it, that oyster something. I don't know. But I only wear it on special occasions. Every once in a while, I'll wear it to the care center. And she goes, "Oh, that's a pretty watch." Doesn't know,
Yeah.
doesn't even know me. I'm just a nice guy she should have married. That's
Yeah.
how that worked out.
My
25
daughter's
years of marriage. Jesus.
My daughter's a caregiver, and
Ah,
she runs into all
You
these
know.
different things.
yeah.
Really, really tough.
Yeah.
Particularly when you like your patient, and you empathize with them, and you know that their life is somewhat different now.
A whole lot different.
Yes. Now, you had the 5 years with the phone company, and you didn't get married while you were there, is that correct?
Didn't get married while I was in the phone company? Yes, I did. My first.
The
my
girl
first-
there that you met,
Did not marry her, no.
you didn't marry her.
She joined United Airlines only because, I didn't think I was ready for marriage, really didn't have anything to offer her, and she wanted to change, get out of the phone company, make something out of herself, she said. She says, "I'll always be with you, and I'll come back and go, when I come back, we'll have dinners, and,
So what do you do when that job ends, and where do you go?
when the telephone company, I had another friend, a Japanese friend, Minoru. He wanted to quit the phone company and get in the swimming pool business. So he kind of talked me into the swimming pool business. So, I'm getting tired of it. But I went from inside, doing the office thing, to being in the frame and what they call the central office. That's where you hook up the line switch, and hook the cables up, and then from there it goes outside. So from a main office to a central office to the installer, and then to what they call pay stations, the days where you drop a dime, a quarter into those things, and that's what I had to repair. Boy, you were busy 24 hours a day, repairing over.
Someone was always screwing with him.
Oh yeah, the old street sweepers with the metal brushes. Every once in a while they'd break off, and you get these guys looking for those, and they're about that long. And what they would do is, say the tip of it, they glue some tissue paper and shove it up under the coin return. So when somebody put a quarter and they needed change or something, the nickel wouldn't fall out, or whatever wouldn't fall out, and it would clog up, and they would watch to see how busy the phone was. They'd be sitting in the car, and if this was real busy, well, you had to empty this maybe every day or every other day or something, and they would just pull that thing out, and all the quarters, nickels, dimes, whatever was there, would fall out. And guys would just be picking up, they go down the street, they might walk away with $100 a day, $200 a day, depending on how busy the phones were. And if you can get a bank of phones, like you go to the airport or something, you got 10 phones lined up, payday.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then he started talking to me about, let's get out of here, and let's go into our own business. It sounded like a good idea to me. And I did that for 5 years. And at that time, there was a lot of Korean influx, a lot of Koreans coming in. And these guys paid everything in cash. So my buddy and I, we opened up a little retail store in Beverly Hills. It was, that was the name of the street, something pool and patio. I can't think of the name we named it. But anyway, we had pool supplies, pool service, repair. We had barbecue. It was like a pool and patio store. So we had all of that stuff to sell. He wanted to do the repair. He didn't like being inside. And I said, well, okay, I'll run the store and you go ahead and get dirty. And, you know, and that lasted. He got a divorce. And, you know, I just couldn't do everything in myself. So I said, I'm just going to sell the goddamn place. And in comes this Korean, $125,000. This would have had the business up for, $125,000. Guy didn't bat an eye. Had a bag of cash in him. A bag. Brown bag of cash. So I gave half to Min and half to myself. And shortly thereafter, I got divorced. So,
Had you had children with that marriage?
yeah, 2, boy and a girl.
And
My daughter's 44, my son's 40.
what's the daughter doing?
I'm sorry?
What is the daughter still?
She's in Temecula with my grandson and her husband. Jim is in La Quinta, about a half a mile from where I live.
And the grandson, what his name?
That's DJ. I didn't like what they named her, so I just nicknamed him DJ, and DJ stuck. And it's Damian James.
And then
That's what they named, Damian James. I just called him DJ, and it kind of stuck. Everybody else is calling him DJ too.
and then the other child?
My son Jim has been married now for about 10 years. Doesn't have an interest in having children. His wife doesn't have an interest in having any children.
They'll regret it.
I think they will later on in their
Yeah.
later stage.
Yeah. And
Either that or they don't want to be the pain in the ass. They didn't want their kids to be the pain in the ass that they were.
now, what does he do?
Jim works for Anheuser-Busch, the beer Budweiser distributorship out here, which his grandfather owns or used to own, but it's still in the business. He passed away and doing very well. He's not just the grandson of the owner. He's one of the top people there because he never let people know or never acted like
Yeah.
he's the grandfather's or my grandfather owns it. You know, he doesn't have that attitude.
That's why McCain is so wealthy.
Probably.
Well, it's his wife's father owned the biggest Budweiser distributor in Arizona.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
His grandfather owned 2 of them. One in Cerritos and one out here. Cerritos now is just built out. I mean, that's gazillions of dollars. And now the one out here, it's called Highmark Distributing. That was his partner, his grandson's partner. And they started Triangle, which is in Cerritos. And then they, through the brewery, found out that there's another area that they're gonna want somebody to move into and take it over. So Rudy is Rudy Highmark and Jim Fleming, Jim's grandfather, my son's grandfather. They're talking. A funny thing, they're talking as they're going around to some of their accounts that owe money, haven't paid their bills. So you get Jim and Rudy out there, gonna drink, set up the house so they can get the bar owner to pay his bill. So one day they're going, making their little rounds. There's one spot, Rudy goes in first, and he notices there's a holdup. And the guy points the gun at Rudy, and Rudy turns around and says, Jim, they want you in here. They tell that story, you know. I mean, they got away clean. The guy got his money, he left, and they always tell that story. Jim, they want you in here.
So, are there children after these 2 children?
No, it's just Jim and Bridget.
And then
My second wife never had children. She didn't have a desire to have children.
But then,
She's the one that's in.
when then in all this do you get into real estate with your wife?
Oh boy, this is back 20 years ago.
And where
So
do you,
the time frame between, it might have been 20 years. I was single for 20 years after the first divorce. So in 19, we got to 82, so it's not 20 years, it's 15. 82, 92, 93, 94, 95, 13 years.
so did you start the real estate business by yourself? Or is there another job
No.
in between all
Yeah,
that?
there was. Oh, I forgot all about that. That was, I don't know why I forgot it because it lasted 20 years. I sold doors and windows and did quite well. So did the people I worked for did quite well. And then
This is to construction companies and
well, retail stores, construction.
Walmart, Kmart?
No, not those. We didn't want to interfere with them because if you deal with like Home Depot and Lowe's, the smaller retail stores get a little upset.
Yeah.
Well, you're selling the same product and they're probably buying more, so you're selling it to cheaper and buys, and we don't sell to them. We just stick with you guys.
Yeah.
And they thought there was some loyalty there. I'd get a lot of business.
Yeah.
So boss was happy. I was happy. I worked commissions.
That's what my niece's husband does. He's in the window and door business
Where? Which one?
up in near Walnut Creek.
Oh, no. Do you know the name of the business?
Well, his name is Jerry Victor. So it might even have Victor in the name.
No.
They're Greek.
No.
They've been in the old man had the business and the kids took it over. So then, is that when the real estate business comes?
Yeah, good story. I'm calling on one of my accounts in Redondo Beach, one of the door and window retailers that I do business with. I noticed this lady coming in. She was dressed to the nines, auburn hair, short. I mean, jewelry hanging out all over the place, and she's just an abs. And I'm standing there looking at her, and my mouth embarrassed to hell. My mouth is open, and the guy I'm talking to is elbowing to pay attention. She's in here quite a bit. And what she does is, she calls on. She's a real estate agent, and does very well here. And she brings her clients in because they want to remodel a house before they sell it and get it all spruced up. And she's in here. And by the way, she's looking at your product. Oh, well, let me run over there and get the check. Can I help you, ma'am? I'm a manufacturer's representative for this particular product. Can I help you with any questions? And she just kind of looked at me. Well, this is going to be a toughie. So I give her the spiel, and the guy that owned the shop, he's looking at me. He says it's got to be the toughest move I ever see anybody played on anybody. But we were good friends, and we could talk that way. I've been calling on him for years. So I was thinking to myself, I think you blew that when you asked him. So there's a place called the Copper Kettle in Manhattan Beach, just as you enter the Manhattan Beach Pier. So I go in there and I say, they have the best turkey burgers in town, So I go, it's kind of like a double door, and for some reason I glanced over, and there she is with the client. So I said, well, if she thinks I'm a jerk, I'm going to be a bigger jerk. So there was enough room. She's sitting in a booth, but there was just enough room for me to slide my skinny butt right next to her. And she kind of jumped. I go, hi. And she goes, oh, well, hi. And, and she kind of laughed, and the other gal laughed, and I said, whew, I'm getting someplace. So, asked her basically about the product. What'd you think of the product? Don't judge a product by the salesman, she kind of chuckled, and so I was really getting bold.
Yeah.
And because what I was saying, some of the things she was laughing at, and so maybe I'm scoring some points. And the other lady went up to go to the bathroom, and I says, "Is there any possibility of me making you laugh after work?" And she looked at me and gave me her phone number.
And you married her.
Married her. She was in the midst of a divorce, a separation, so that took some time. But after the divorce, there you go.
How long ago was that? 12, 13, 14,
I was
15?
20. We were married. Or we were together for 25 years. 24.
You say we're together.
Well, yeah. Well, now she's in a home. She's been in the.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah, she's.
What a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm just some nice guy now. She should have married.
But you then became a part of that real estate business.
Yeah, the thing was, I wasn't really interested in real estate, only because, when I left Vietnam, I had developed peripheral neuropathy, and being in real estate, you have to do a lot of handwriting, and I explained that to DR.DAVE. I says, if I sign my name, my hand just keeps going. If I'm close to the wall, my hand will be up the wall, to the ceiling, back down the other wall, and onto the floor. It's just very hard to control. And when I print, I print better than I write. And I always had that held against me. When I was selling doors and windows, my boss commented. He said, "Ed, I can't read your writing, and I can't make out the spelling, and you get defensive.
Yeah.
It's just something. You can't have somebody walk on you. They can, but that's me." And I said, "Richard, I thought the employment application I filled out was for a seller, not a speller." And he looked at me. "Get out." That year, I gave him $1,700,000 worth of business. He was used to making $500.
Right.
That's why he never said a goddamn word to me again, ever after that. I said, "I thought you hired a seller, not a speller. You got Marie that can spell. You got me that can sell."
Good for you.
Never said a word after that. And I'll tell you how grateful that guy was. I had problems with the Jeep, and again, now this is just before I met Judith. I had problems with my Jeep, and it cost me $1,100. And I told Richard, I says, I'm going to have to take a couple of days off because I'm having some issues with my Jeep. And he goes, "Well, where'd you take your Jeep?" And I gave him, a place, where I always take my car, and didn't say anything. He said, "Well, it's close to home, isn't it?" "Yeah." So I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Okay, take whatever time you need." Boom, boom, boom. So I go to pick up my Jeep. It was paid for.
Oh, nice.
$1,100, $1,125.
Nice.
Never asked for the money back. Never took it out of my paycheck. He said, "I just appreciate what you do."
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
So I deliberately spelled "thank you" backwards, and he laughed.
You work for a guy like that.
Yeah, Richard Ellital. He's just a great guy. I mean, just an absolutely super guy. He's Lebanese. He found out that I was in the Marines, and he called me into his office. He said, "Ed, I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim." And I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I knew about the Marines in Lebanon."
Oh,
You know,
barracks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I says, "That's there. That was then. This is here. This is now." That's just what I told him. He says, "You're going to meet some people that are Israelis that don't like Lebanese people. There's an account there." I know Valley Sash and Door. I know Abi and can't think of the other guy's name. And he goes, "Yeah, I just can't get any business out of them." I said, that'll be the last thing you ever say about them, negatively. So I go down and gave Abby my card. And he goes, you know, a couple of other salesmen come in there for their company. I don't deal with Lebanese. You know, they don't like us. We don't like them. Abby, that's there. This is the United States of America. I'm your salesman. I work for him. Now, what can I sell you today? And he gave me an order. And I called Richard. He said, Richard, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean what I'm doing? I said, well, I just got an order from Valley Sash. You could just, you know, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I said, don't mess it up. I want that thing perfect. And I got a ton of business from the guy. Got an absolute ton of business. And that was part of this $1.7 million I got him for that year. That's
But
after
was that because he found out they were Christians?
I never told him.
Oh, we never
I
told
says,
him.
you know, this is America. You got to
Yeah.
bury that, you know, over there.
Yeah.
Don't bring it over here.
Yeah.
We don't deal with that over here.
Yeah.
You're in the same damn business. We got a good price. We have an excellent product. What do you want to do? Piss away your money? And that's the way it was.
So then how did you get into the real estate business?
Oh, Judith got tired of me being on the freeway. You know, I'd go from, say, even Upland where I lived when I first met her, clear to maybe sometimes Santa Barbara, and then come back. I mean, it's a 200-mile round trip.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I did every single day. That's why I was having problems with the Jeep. And, you know, every day, you know, and then the rain, and, you know, I was just so inclement. He said, why do you do this? I said, I like it. He says, you know, and she goes, you sell high-end doors and windows. These are beautiful, mahoganies, oaks, all the hardwoods. And why don't you sell the high-end houses that go with them? You know, you talk about a salesperson.
Yeah, good logic.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, you can operate at home, you don't have to do anything. And I said, well, you know, I work for a good boss. He's, you know, we leave him. And she goes, screw him. He's only interested in the money you're making for him. That's the way it is. It's business. Do it. Deal with it, you know. So I got my license, but I'm still working for Richard. And I'm trying to sell on the weekends. So I had to tell Richard, Rich, I have to leave the company because of Judith. He goes, what's wrong with Judith? She wants me out of the door and window business and wants me in the real estate business. And he would, you know, I thought the poor guy was going to have a heart attack. And what am I going to do? And who am I going to get? Nobody can do what you do, blah, 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 blah. And I says, you know, you treated me well. I'll give you as long as you want to find somebody. I have a recommendation. The guy hates my guts because I stole business from him, but he's a good guy. And I said, he works for Cal Classics, one of our competition. And he just shook his head and blah, 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 blah. So he talked to Steve, and Steve hated my guts. He just
You
couldn't
took all
stand
his business?
it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I badmouthed him. You know, I'd do anything to get to sale. Oh, you don't want to deal with them. Just I could care less. I wanted the money. I wanted the commission, and I wanted my boss to be happy. He's paying the bills. He's paying my commission. So whatever it took, I did it. So Steve called me. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm leaving." He said, "Where you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to sell real estate." He goes, "Well, you mean I can get my old accounts back?" I said, "That's up to you." I says, "You're going to expect a call from my boss. Listen to what he has to say. And I strongly suggest that you take his offer, because it'll be the best person you ever worked for in your life." And he goes, "And you recommended me?" I says, "Yeah." You're second best. and Richard hired him, but I tell you, it cost Richard, because Steve was already established. You know, he had kids in college, and you know, so Richard had to pay. But I haven't heard anything bad. You know.
So in your real estate business, did you concentrate on one area, or were you kind of all over?
Well, we had to beat cities. It was South Bay Association of Realtors. Judith, after I got my license and started making my way through the business, she ran to be president of the South Bay Association of Realtors. This woman's a genius, very smart, very business-minded, and cracks the whip. You know, she's in a man's world at that time. You know, very few women. I mean, there were some, but it was dominated by men.
Yeah.
And she took no prisoners. She ran for president of the South Bay Association of Realtors. She cleaned that house like you wouldn't believe. No questions asked. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. You don't like it? That's just too bad. And then new hirees came in, and she did such a job that they wouldn't let her leave. They automatically reelected her for a second term. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
And she took it. She goes, "That's it. I've had it." You know. And then some other gal.
So how many people were in her office?
Oh, jeez. Well, the whole South Bay is. Well, she probably had probably 10 people, but when you say 10 worker bees, I mean, they were typing and you know, getting orders from her and doing this and doing that, and somebody would organize meetings, and you know, it's just support group, I guess you'd call it, maybe 10 people.
But no other brokers with her?
No. She was going to law school at the time, and I mean, she was a brainiac. And doing all this stuff. I mean, just an absolute brainiac. She was more scholastically inclined than actually people orientated. She didn't like really to deal with people, because her attitude was, you know, I'm the boss, and if you don't like it, that's it.
Yeah. And
Yeah, we run out of film
no.
and sound. You check the batteries. Am I talking too much?
No, unfortunately, the camera slipped down a little bit.
Uh-oh, good.
So your head isn't in any of it.
So she, you know, after a while, she said, I just can't do this anymore. I want to go back, spend time with my husband, because she was traveling all over the place. And I want to spend time with my honey, and you know, so then we teamed up, and we spent some time in the South Bay, and then I wanted to buy a little house in Lake Arrowhead, or a condo or something that we can just get away and you know, not have to worry about. So we bought a condo in Lake Arrowhead, right across the street from the lake. And every weekend, well, we just couldn't wait.
Yeah.
You know, we'd leave about 1 o'clock Friday afternoon, avoid the traffic, and spend the weekend in Lake Arrowhead and go on the boat and da 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 da. And so then we moved up there permanently, and became agents under the umbrella of Remax. And fires were breaking out like every other year. We had big fires up at Lake Arrowhead. And so we were getting evacuated, and you know, spending time in a one-room hotel. We had 2 dogs. Some of them didn't like the dogs, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So we decided to buy a house here in the desert. So she goes, well, Jim lives in it, my son. Jim lives in the desert. And I said, yeah. Well, let's go see where he lives, and you know, look around the neighborhood if you wanted to live close to him. If not, we'll go to a different part of the desert. Sounded fair. So Jim told us, you got to stay in this side of the border, because on one side you're what is it? The cheaper utilities, ID, And if you go on the other side of Washington, the west side of Washington, you're in a different, and the
Sure.
rates are almost doubled, you know. So we took his advice in La Quinta, and that was 17, 15, 16 years ago. And we still live there. Oh, I still live there.
When I lived in La Quinta, it was hardly any of that buildings.
Oh, yeah.
From Washington going east,
all sand.
and you know, and when I'd go in the gate where I lived, I looked down the first street, and it was just now there is a Walgreens that, you know, outside the fence. But when you look down that street now, it says Walgreens.
Do you still live around there? Or?
No, I live right down here
Right.
in
Rancho Mirage? Or?
Yeah, in Rancho Mirage. But I lived at Rancho La Quinta for
Wow.
a while.
Yeah, that's some a high dollar rent there.
Not when I bought.
Yeah.
You know.
That's right down the street from Calleo Bay.
Mhm.
That's right down the street where my.
But when I
work's at.
bought in there, I think it was 500,000 for my house, and I had a casita, a swimming pool.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, it was just
Wow.
right on the golf course, you know. The
Right
fairway.
off of Washington Street.
Yeah, off of Washington, but I forget which avenue is before going.
Yeah, it's
north.
Calleo Bay. That's
And-
the street where Walgreens is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that I was further down the fairways that
Uh-huh.
went along there.
Yeah.
That was where I looked to the north,
I'll be done.
and but we had all of our doctors, all of our friends live in Rancho Mirage.
Yeah, so.
And so we left, and it just went
Yeah.
buildings, shopping centers, it just, you know, everywhere. And I was kind of glad we left.
Yeah. What is it, Lake La Quinta, right across the street from it, basically. North
Yeah.
of it, I should say.
Yeah.
Had
Yeah.
had a lady friend in there.
So where are you now as far as your life? With your wife in a home, and you live out there by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you play golf or do things with?
I can't. I used to play golf.
Your peripheral.
Yeah, I have a 32 hot rod, and I went to all the car shows. You know, I've been having that for almost 10 years. So, and that's in the wintertime here, and I spend my summertime months up until Judith went in the care center, and we'd go to Lake Arrowhead and spend the summer up there. But now
You still
that
have that one up
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah.
Good.
I haven't been up here yet, but I got the boat in the water, and it's hard for me now to go away for more than 2 days, or say 3 days max, because I don't want to be away from Judith for 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good facilities, but it's changed. People that run that particular facility, I don't like the people. They have a lax attitude. I don't like the chef that they got in there now, so I'm bulldogging them like you won't believe.
Is she able to take care of herself, shower and?
No.
Yeah. See, the biggest problem is if she's incontinent,
Yeah.
will be how often they change her diaper.
Exactly.
Otherwise, she'll get infections and
Absolutely.
she'll die.
Absolutely.
And so-
Absolutely. And I harp on them like you will not believe. I'm on them like a white on rice.
Well, they can kill her if you're not careful.
I know. I make sure I'm there. Like I said, I'm there every morning. I make sure she's clean. I make sure her nails are clipped. I make sure she brushes her teeth and mouthwash. She used to fight me with the shower. She doesn't like a shower, and I used to try to do it myself, but she'd fight me and kick me and
Yeah.
scratch at me, and then I'd have to tell the management that whatever it takes to her to get into that shower, I don't give a damn if they got a handcuff her. Just get her in that shower, make sure she's clean.
Yeah, keep her.
Yeah.
It's critical.
Yeah, and her medications now, I mean, that used to be an ordeal, but for some reason, the new manager, the Scala that got in there, the first one where she ran that ship shape, she was just didn't take any nonsense off of nobody, and then she quit, but she wasn't getting any support, and blah, blah, blah. So now you got this other idiot that's in there. I can't stand her, and I've told her 100 times, you got no business being in the position you're in because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
See, my daughter, I'm aware of this because if there's a facility and a person's in it, she has been hired a couple of times to go into that facility and take care of that person personally.
Oh,
And the
jeez.
people in the facilities hate when someone comes in.
Outsiders come in, that's right.
And she has had to fight that a couple of times because they don't take care of them.
It's, you know, they pay these people, the caregivers there, minimum wage. And the caregivers really don't have the patience. I can't say all of them because I notice some of them do, but the majority don't even last a month. So then they got
Either
to bring somebody
Filipinos
else in.
or they're Chicanos, one or the other.
Well, now there's an infiltration of the blacks, and what I see, the blacks are a little bit more conscientious than some of the Latinos.
And there's some other ones my daughter's dealt with. One of them was Cambodian, and she was really good. And the Filipinos. they're good.
Filipinos seem to be, they want to get involved in the medical end of what's happening in the United States. That's how they can come over here. There's so many nurses and caregivers that are Filipinos, and I know a ton of them, and they're just, you know, they'll start out maybe caregiving, and then they'll go off to COD and become, you know, get their nurses degrees or whatever.
Yeah, like I say, my daughter's done it long enough now that there's some real talent. You have just a simple thing of how to get a person out of bed and into a shower,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, and not hurt them. And she's had a couple, 3 of them die on her, and she's going through the whole thing. In fact, her son, I don't know, this is the end of my story, but he got killed 2 weeks ago in a car accident. And so she's up in Colorado, you know, taking care of all those details. And so when she comes back, I'm
Christ.
not looking forward to it, because it's going to take a while for her to get over that.
Losing your own child. Jesus, that ain't.
He was a cowboy,
Doesn't matter. It shouldn't-
rodeo,
Oh,
bronco
really?
buster, the whole thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Raised cows,
And
trained
that's
horses.
probably why she got attracted to him too.
Yeah. Listen, are we pretty much through where you are now? Because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, I think you know she's in a home.
But
I'm doing okay. We
Yeah.
really didn't miss any steps.
Do you want to add anything more to what when this thing is done? You know, you'll probably get some for your sons,
Yeah,
because we pretty got a good life history here
yeah.
on what you did. And so if you want to add anything into this that you think I missed, please do it.
Yeah. Well, I would have probably missed a lot of this stuff, but you were asking questions that really rang the bell here. You know, getting my memory going. I can't remember anything that was important.
There are no more relatives back in Rochelle.
Oh, my 2 brothers are deceased. I got 2 other sisters. They're deceased. So it's me and Patty. Patty lives in Rockland, which is just, I think, east of Sacramento. She has a beautiful daughter, a great son. A daughter adopted two girls that are everybody's honey bunny, I call them.
Yeah.
You know, they're just the sweetest. She adopted them. And Monica is my niece, and she, I don't know, didn't feel that marriage would suit her, but she wanted to be a mother. And she wanted my sister to be a grandmother. And I'm telling you, these girls are islanders from Polynesia, something like that. And on St. Patrick's Day, these girls dye their hair green, you know, and if you look at them, you think they were just black.
Yeah.
But now with the green hair, and I'm really Irish, and
Yeah.
my nanny's Irish, and it's hysterical. It's just absolutely, so they're not Polynesian, they're Irish.
Well,
Great family they have there. Her husband died about 2 years ago, and the girls missed him
oh, sure.
terribly.
Yeah. Well, at this point, and I'm going to say thank you so much.
I can go have lunch, is that what you're saying,
And
Harry?
I'm going to give you my handshake,
Thank
Maureen.
you, sir.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Jarhead.
Yeah. This is the high point of my life for these interviews.
Really?
Been
Well, you
doing
do
it
a heck of a job.
I've been doing it for 10 years.
Do I get my rocker stripes? Do you know what the rocker is?
Not only that, we're going to let you keep the rifles.
That's E6.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
E6.
thank you so much.
All right, all right.
And I'm just going to shut this off.